Welcome to Santa Cruz River Research Days for 2025. My name is Luke Cole. I'll be your host for Research Days. I'm with Sonoran Institute, and we'll get into a little bit more about what Sonoran Institute is and what Santa Cruz River Research Days is in a couple of slides. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. There is a water fountain, sort of one of those really good refill your water bottle ones, just outside the door to the right. There are restrooms in every possible direction that you could walk once you're out of here. So immediately to your right or immediately to your left, regardless of which door you use in the room. We are also broadcasting this over Zoom, and just want to do a quick check to make sure that the folks on Zoom are able to hear us okay. Seems like we're good. And we are broadcasting this real time in both English and Spanish, as we want to be representative of this Santa Cruz River Valley community. So just as a little bit of a heads up, the panel that will be happening at 1:20 will be in Spanish. So if you speak Spanish, good on you. We have that Zoom capability on your phone as well. So there are instructions in the back of the room if you would like to access the English or Spanish version of Zoom on your phone. We only ask that you not use the speaker function on your phone if you're tuning in. If you don't have earbuds, we ask that you just sort of hold your phone on Zoom to your head like you were taking a call from your mom or whoever. All right, so my name is Luke Cole, and I direct the Santa Cruz River program at Sonoran Institute. Look at it. There you go. We work throughout the Santa Cruz River corridor. The Santa Cruz River corridor is the homeland to indigenous peoples. Today, those are the Tohono and the Pasquayaqui. We respectfully acknowledge everything that they have done for this community, that they do in partnership with Sonoran Institute and our municipal partners, and we thank them for the opportunity to live and work on this land. So Sonoran Institute works throughout the entirety of the Colorado River Basin. This is our home. We are not just the Santa Cruz River program, though we are based here in Tucson. We work within this watershed that has over 40 million people living in it, substantial amounts of farmland. It consists of the US, of Mexico, and of our tribal indigenous partners. There are 21 high biodiversity areas throughout the Colorado River Basin, and it is a massive, massive economy. Sonoran Institute, we're in our 35th year. We're founded in 1990, and our mission is to connect people and communities to the natural resources that nourish and sustain us. We have 4 programs, the first of which is at the Colorado River Delta. This is our program in Mexico that works binationally and with tribal partners to try to connect the Colorado River back to the Sea of Cortez. We have our Santa Cruz River program right here. No need for describing that because we'll be doing that for the next 2 days. And we have our Growing Water Smart program. Oh, can we back up a little bit? Oh, got it, thank you. Our Growing Water Smart program works throughout the entirety of the Colorado River Basin, and our One Basin program that works with our tribal partners to build tribal capacity to expand and support those partnerships. I'm back. So we are a community-based organization. We're a small outfit. We have about 50 staff throughout the entirety of this massive geography. So the work we do is in support of and with our community. We are conveners. We cannot do the work that we do by ourselves. Santa Cruz River program is myself, Claire Zugmeyer over here, and Alex Corral in the back. The end. So the work we do is with you all. Everybody who is in this room is a partner just by being here alone, and many of you are folks that we have actively collaborated with, and we thank you for that. And our work is, of course, in the spirit of conservation. The work we do is nonpartisan and it is in the spirit of, like I said, connecting people and communities with natural resources. And that's really at the spirit of our Santa Cruz River program. Our vision is a flowing Santa Cruz River, wherever possible, from Mexico to Marana, where it's again and remains the center of community value, community health throughout this entire valley. A tremendous thanks to the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona for their lead support of this event, and many other supporting partners who helped make this event possible. So now I'm going to turn the program over briefly to our host and English professor here at Pima Community College, Eric Aldrich. Eric? Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pima. Good afternoon. I'm Eric Aldrich. I'm an English faculty member here at Pima Community College. I also happen to be on the board of directors for Sky Island Alliance, so working along with you all. On behalf of PCC, welcome to the 2025 Santa Cruz River Research Days, and welcome to the Sonoran Institute for being here. 3 of our campuses, Downtown West and Desert Vista, are right near the Santa Cruz River. In fact, Desert Vista is right across the street. And so those of us who love both PCC and the river would love to see them thriving side by side. Pima's mission is to support and enrich our community by providing accessible education to students from all backgrounds. As you can probably imagine, a community college, when steered towards social and ecological justice, can be a powerful mechanism for positive change. And hosting this event is just one example of how we can partner to support the Santa Cruz River. I'd like to share a few things with you about PCC's sustainability efforts and some context for how we can work together. A few years ago, the college adopted a climate action and sustainability plan that outlines how we act ethically, both in creating sustainable facilities and providing sustainability education. In service to sustainability education, we've taken some important steps, like we hired a director of sustainability, Phil Berry, and we hired a full-time climate action and sustainability faculty member, my colleague, Crystal McKenna. With their leadership, we've created a slate of climate action and sustainability courses under the CAS prefix, including classes like Sustainable Futures, Sustainable Cities and Societies, and Climate Change. For my part, if anybody's looking to take a literature class, have a little bit of a book club sometime soon, I teach Lit 227, which is Literature and the Environment. And that course is really fascinating because it features a lot of creative writing by scientists. We tend to think of the humanities and science as being somewhat siloed away from one another, but some of the best and most persuasive and interesting writers on ecological issues, of course, are scientists. A full list of our climate courses is featured on the last page of your program. So if you go to the last page of the program, you can see all the courses that we offer. My goal in making you aware of these courses is to encourage you to take them, if you want to, share them with people who might be interested, and connect with us to share your expertise with our students. If you are someone who has a background in conservation, you work in the sciences, you have any sort of connection to community action in environmental ways, we would love to connect with you. I love having guests in my classes. I teach online a lot, so when I invite guests, that often means that we do a Zoom and I record it and I post it to our online webpage. But I know my friend Crystal loves to have guests in her classes too. So if you're interested in being a guest speaker for a Pima Community College environmental class, just talk to me sometime here today. Another thing that we do is we support undergraduate research opportunities. An example of this is one of my science colleagues, Lisa Katcher, has partnered with the Desert Museum so her students can study native bees and actually do scientific research to get the experience that will maybe promote them going to grad school or something like that. If you have any idea of some of those kind of undergraduate research opportunities, share them with me too. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we have our Climate and Community Day. We do that at the beginning of every April. And again, would love to have you there. And finally, we have an honors program here at Pima. And that program supports a significant service learning component. Many of our honors students pursue ecological or sustainability projects, such as park cleanups or buffalo grass pulls. And perhaps a current or future honors student might want to hack down some arundo. So if you have any sort of idea of a service learning project that might interest some of our honors students, I'm one of the honors coordinators for the college, so talk to me. So education is essential to restoring and protecting the Santa Cruz River, and many of us at PCC, both students and faculty, are dedicated to providing accessible ecological education. Please feel free to reach out to me with any opportunities to connect. My email is ealdrich@pima.edu, and just ask me and I'll tell you again. I'm very much looking forward to learning from you this afternoon, hearing and ready to hear the keynote speakers for today. Thanks so much for being here and for everything you do to support the Santa Cruz River.
Thank you. Eric, thank you. So we are going to move toward our keynote panel. Just as a reminder, again, this will be presented in Spanish. So if you have the capacity through Zoom to tune in or through your family or education to listen in Spanish, great. Absolutely, we should be taking Eric up on that offer. I think everybody in the room could give one of those guest lectures for sure. All right, can we pivot to the first slide? I know it's going to auto-advance, but if there's any way we can hold that first slide, it would be a big help. No rush, no rush. Sorry for the panel. So the theme of this year's Santa Cruz River Research Days is building on successes. And naturally, we want to highlight one of the most compelling examples of binational progress in the US-Mexico borderlands, the rehabilitation of the Santa Cruz River, a transboundary river that flows north from Nogales, Sonora into southern Arizona. The Santa Cruz is a rare desert river with international reach, cultural significance, and ecological importance. Thanks to major binational infrastructure investments and years of cross-border collaboration, this river is now about 15 years into active and visible recovery, a recovery made possible by the 2008-2009 upgrades to the federally operated Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant. Located in Rio Rico, Arizona, and managed by the U.S. section of the International Boundary and Water Commission, or the IBWC, this facility treats sewage conveyed from Nogales, Sonora, and Nogales, Arizona, by way of the Shared International Outfall Interceptor, or the IOI. The improvements brought the plant up to modern standards, significantly reducing pollutant loads and greatly improving the quality of the treated water that was reintroduced and continues to be introduced into the Santa Cruz River. Since then, the condition of the river has improved markedly, as documented in Sonoran Institute's own annual Living River reports. They're in the back, they're free. Please take one or two. These track the changes in water quality, riparian health, and biodiversity year after year. These reports consistently show rising numbers of native fish, birds, and trees as a testament to the river's resilience and the enduring value of binational collaboration. Indeed, the river's restoration has been driven not only by infrastructure, but by joint planning, community engagement, and institutional coordination. It's a model of success that we hope to expand in the face of growing environmental challenges. The IBWC and its Mexican counterpart, the Comision Internacional de Límites y Aguas, or CILA, serve as the principal binational institutions responsible for implementing water and boundary treaties between our two countries. Their collaboration in the Santa Cruz River Basin is governed by a series of binational agreements known as minutes. These minutes provide the legal framework for cooperation and stakeholder engagement on issues ranging from flood management to water delivery to sanitation to environmental restoration. The spirit of collaborations is perhaps the most evident in the infrastructure system that channels stormwater and wastewater from Nogales, Sonora and Nogales, Arizona to treatment at the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant in Rio Rico. Clean, treated water is returned to the Santa Cruz River, supporting public health and contributing to ecosystem recovery. This binational system shows that it is possible and what is possible when both countries commit to the shared stewardship of natural resources and public infrastructure. Still, shared challenges persist. In the upper Santa Cruz River watershed, areas such as Oso Wash and Nogales Wash remain vulnerable to flooding, dry weather flows from small treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, and the movement of trash and debris during heavy storm events. Addressing these challenges will require sustained investment, improved data sharing, and joint planning. Central themes in the cross-border work that is underway within the Santa Cruz River Basin. Today, we are honored to welcome two distinguished leaders whose work exemplifies the kind of cooperation that continues to shape the region. Maria-Elena, who until just last week served as the Commissioner for the U.S. IBWC and has long been a champion of sustainable infrastructure and public participation in the borderlands. Also, Principal Engineer Luis Antonio Rascon Mendoza of CILA brings decades of experience in international water development and works closely with Commissioner Adriana Resendez, who could not join us today. Together, IBWC and CILA lead efforts to address the complex, evolving challenges and opportunities that face the Santa Cruz River and other shared waterways through meaningful binational partnership. Today's panel will be moderated by Sonoran Institute's Francisco Zamora, who is our Senior Director of Programs, and I'll welcome Francisco, Ingeniero Rascon, and Dr. Hiner up to the stage. Please, a round of applause. Comfortable seat. Yeah, of course, come on. All the more so. So this mic's live. Okay. Francisco will set us off.
Buenas tardes. Probando el español para que los traductores, esta sesión va a ser en español. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes, Maria-Elena, doctora Maria-Elena, y ingeniero Rascon, que lo conozco de hace a lo mejor como 25, 30 años, ¿verdad? Tengo una serie de preguntas y va a ser una charla, una conversación, y esperemos tener también tiempo al final para pues, 1, 2, 3 preguntas del público también. Pero vamos a empezar directamente sin más preámbulos. Y esta primera pregunta para el ingeniero Rascon. Luke pues, describió brevemente que el río Santa Cruz es un ejemplo de éxito, ya que hace 20 años nos encontramos que habían muerto árboles de álamos, sobre todo a lo largo de 8 millas del río. Pero en el 2009, después de los esfuerzos binacionales, o a partir de 2009, pues empezó a mejorarse las condiciones del río. Y la pregunta específica, ingeniero, para usted es, ¿cuáles son las lecciones aprendidas? ¿Qué momentos críticos quizás se vivieron en esos años en la colaboración binacional para que poder transformar ese río con árboles que estaban muertos o muriendo a un ecosistema vivo?
Sí, está funcionando. Muchas gracias por la invitación a participar en este evento. Un saludo de la comisionada Adriana Reséndez, que ahorita pues, se encuentra atendiendo los temas de allá del río Bravo que se encuentran abordándose al más alto nivel por el tema de las entregas de agua del río Bravo. En respecto a la planta de tratamiento de aquí de Nogales, Arizona, pues nada más comentar que lo que es la rehabilitación de la planta fue principalmente una acción realizada por la sección estadounidense para cumplir con la normatividad de su país. Lo que me gustaría es platicar un poco acerca de los eventos que tuvieron lugar a lo largo de la historia, los momentos críticos de colaboración binacional. El Tratado de Aguas de 1944 establece el compromiso de ambos gobiernos de atender preferentemente los asuntos, los problemas fronterizos de saneamiento. Y es precisamente el Acta 206, que fue firmada en 1958, la primera acta en la que la Comisión acuerda establece un acta, un acuerdo para atender los problemas fronterizos de saneamiento, y fue precisamente que en el tema de Nogales se acuerda la operación y mantenimiento del sistema que se había construido desde 1951 por los dos gobiernos, el cual principalmente consistía en un colector tanto en México como en Estados Unidos y una planta internacional. Lo que llama la atención de esta acta es el esquema de distribución de costos entre los dos países. Establece un sistema de distribución que considera que como la planta se ubica en Estados Unidos, bueno, el responsable, el encargado de llevar a cabo la operación y el mantenimiento de la planta pues, se corresponde a Estados Unidos, y que México pues, debe cubrir lo que le corresponde por las aguas de México que se traten ahí. Pero sí establece un esquema mediante el cual la participación de México es conforme a la economía de México, o sea que México paga lo que le hubiera costado pagar por tratar esas aguas, por construir, por operar y mantener esa planta, lo que le hubiera costado conforme a la economía de México, y Estados Unidos cubre el resto de los costos reales de operación. Este esquema se retoma nuevamente en el Acta 227, que es firmada en 1967, cuando la planta internacional se mueve más hacia el norte. Ahí se retoma ese concepto nuevamente y vuelve otra vez a retomarse en el Acta 276, que fue firmada en 1988, cuando se amplía la capacidad de la planta internacional para asignarle a México una capacidad de los 9.9 millones de galones por día que tiene asignada actualmente, 434 litros por segundo. Este concepto es un concepto que sirvió de ejemplo para otras poblaciones. Por ejemplo, en San Diego se construyó una planta internacional que trata aguas residuales de la ciudad de Tijuana en territorio estadounidense, y también ahí se utiliza este mismo esquema. En aquella ocasión México participa en lo que es la construcción de la planta internacional y en la operación y mantenimiento de la planta, conforme a lo que le hubiera costado construir la planta que México iba a construir en el río a la mar. Entonces, este esquema ha sido utilizado en otras zonas de la frontera. Entonces, toda esta serie de acuerdos aquí en la zona de Nogales que mencionamos, desde el Acta 206, 227, 276, pues fueron motivados por las condiciones topográficas de la zona, las cuales pues cualquier flujo que ocurra en Nogales, Sonora, va a fluir de forma natural hacia el norte y cruza la frontera internacional. Para abordar esta situación en la década de los 90, se desarrolla un estudio integral de agua y saneamiento, en el que se analiza cómo se iría a atender el aspecto del saneamiento en esta región de ambos nogales. Se analizan dos opciones. Una es ampliar la planta internacional de manera que pueda recibir flujos adicionales a los 434 litros por segundo que ya estaba recibiendo conforme al Acta 276, o bien, si ya no se iba a hacer esa ampliación, pues separar de alguna manera, dividir el sistema en Nogales, Sonora, de tal manera que se siguieran enviando los 434 litros por segundo hacia la planta internacional, y el resto de los volúmenes que se generaran en Nogales, Sonora, se enviaran hacia el sur para tratarse en una planta que se construiría en lo que se llama el arroyo en la cuenca de los Alisos. Entonces, se optó por la opción de no ampliar la planta internacional, no ampliar la capacidad de México en la planta internacional, sino construir el tratamiento allá en territorio mexicano. Eso significaba que México pues ya no podría mandar excedentes, mandar flujos en exceso a los 434. El esquema del acta 206 de que México pagara el tratamiento a economía de México pues ya no aplicaría para esos volúmenes de excedentes. Tendría que, en caso de que se mandaran volúmenes de excedentes, México tendría que pagar el costo real de tratamiento. Debido a que en forma natural los flujos se van hacia Estados Unidos, pues fue inevitable que se empezaran a presentar excedentes. Al empezar la década de las 2000, empezaron a presentarse pequeños volúmenes de excedentes a partir de 2002. El organismo operador cubría esos costos, eran relativamente bajos esos costos, pero conforme fue pasando el tiempo, ya a partir de 2014 ya los flujos, los volúmenes empezaron a aumentar, se empezaron a tener mayores costos, el organismo operador empezó a tener ya dificultades para cubrir los costos de tratamiento. Y bueno, esta es una situación que ha venido incrementándose con el tiempo, de tal manera que a la fecha pues ya el adeudo ha ido creciendo y actualmente estamos hablando de un adeudo cercano a los 6 millones de dólares, lo cual pues es imposible para el organismo operador pagarlo. Pues están explorando diferentes opciones de cómo cubrir ese adeudo. Pues yo creo que esos serían comentarios en general.
Sí, si me permite, ingeniero, yo creo que ahorita podemos regresar porque la pregunta siguiente para Maria-Elena es, viendo hacia el futuro, ¿cuáles crees tú que sean esos retos binacionales del río Santa Cruz? Ahorita el ingeniero mencionó pues el adeudo que existe, sabemos de la planta Los Alisos, que si incrementa capacidad o no. ¿Cuáles crees tú que sean esos retos en el corto o quizá mediano plazo para el río Santa Cruz, para seguir asegurando pues, la colaboración y la buena calidad del agua que se vierte al río Santa Cruz?
Bueno, muchas gracias por la invitación. Realmente es un honor estar aquí con ustedes. Como bien saben, el lunes pasado fue mi último día como comisionada de la sección de Estados Unidos. Ha sido uno de los grandes honores que yo he tenido en representar el gobierno federal en un trabajo tan importante para la relación bilateral. Déjame un poco hablar de las lecciones aprendidas y luego por qué son retos, se convierten en retos, ¿verdad? Obvio que cuando yo entré a la sección de Estados Unidos, a nosotros nos tocaba operar la planta y una de las lecciones aprendidas es que la falta de mantenimiento no nada más pasa en México, también pasa en Estados Unidos, ¿verdad? El mantenimiento que se realizó en la planta internacional fue casi cero. Y de hecho, por primera vez estábamos invirtiendo alrededor de $2 millones en el cambio de los difusores en la planta. Esos difusores tienen una vida útil de 7 años, sin embargo, habían operado 24 horas, 14 años. La planta fue diseñada sin la oportunidad de darle el mantenimiento requerido, que es otro tren, para descansar un tren mientras hace el mantenimiento del otro tren, ¿verdad? Entonces, esos son detalles que le competen al gobierno federal. Y esos son detalles que van a ser sumamente importantes que la ciudadanía siga promocionando la importancia de este río, ¿verdad? Y la importancia de la planta y la importancia de cumplir con sus obligaciones. Ahora, yo pienso que nueva administración pues empiezan a cuestionar pues cómo es posible que Estados Unidos esté tratando la las aguas residuales de México. Y no creo que están convencidos con simplemente decir de que se están pagando los costos asociados con ese saneamiento a costos de México. No es algo que ellos lo ven, no están satisfechos con ese tipo de respuesta. Entonces, sí, yo creo que como comunidad es importante poder dar a luz que porque es importante, ¿verdad? Ahora, lo que ha sido uno de los beneficios que viene de esto, o sea, la planta no se construyó para tener un río hermoso como es Santa Cruz. Eso ha sido uno de los co-beneficios que ha venido con eso y la restauración de los ecosistemas y todo eso. Y yo pienso que es algo que también van a tener que abogar por esta necesidad y qué es el costo-beneficio asociado con eso, ¿verdad? ¿Qué son las ventajas de tener esta zona verde, de tener esta zona que ya es patrimonio de la sociedad? Y es curioso porque cuando cuando Luke estaba hablando de la institución y qué es el trabajo que estábamos haciendo en la CILA, estaba un poco reflexionando la atención que tiene San Diego, ¿verdad? Y la clausura de sus playas y ese patrimonio de la sociedad, ¿verdad? No debería de haber diferencia entre lo que es el río y las playas de California. No dejan de ser patrimonio, no dejan de ser zonas donde van la sociedad a poder disfrutar de este patrimonio, ¿verdad? Y ese es un mensaje que ustedes tienen que dar. Claro que no hay los surfeadores como tienes en California, sin embargo, hay que encontrar esas organizaciones sin fines de lucro que les importa esto, ¿verdad? Sabemos que lo que son las aves y todo eso es algo que es importante para a mucha gente que tienden a ser conservadores, ¿verdad? Y ese es algo que yo pienso que va a ser uno de los retos que van a tener que confrontar. Uno viene siendo continuar con la rehabilitación de la planta. 2 viene siendo continuar con la oportunidad de recibir de los gobiernos federales o el gobierno federal, en particular de Estados Unidos, la operación y mantenimiento, ¿verdad? El otro reto que yo veo que viene es también el futuro de las aguas que siguen fluyendo al norte, ¿verdad? A través de el Oso Wash. Sonora sigue creciendo. Y aunque se va a construir esa planta o se va a ampliar la planta de los alisos, es algo, lo mismo que pasa en Estados Unidos, es la falta de operación y mantenimiento, ¿verdad? Y ese es algo, mira, cuando yo entré a trabajar en estos temas, entré yo en la Comisión de Cooperación Ecológica Fronteriza, que ahora es parte del Banco de Desarrollo de América del Norte. Y en ese momento la población en toda la frontera que tenía saneamiento era el 26%. Y por 20 años estuvimos desarrollando proyectos a lo largo de la frontera. Realmente la única comunidad que tenía saneamiento era Tijuana y lo que se había realizado aquí en Nogales, ¿verdad? Todos los demás, ni Juárez, ni Matamoros, ni tenían saneamiento. Entonces, ya cuando me fui de la COSEF en 2017, esos niveles de saneamiento habían llegado arriba del 90%. Entonces, el gobierno federal por mucho tiempo pudieron justificar esos fondos porque era saneamiento por primera vez. ¿Ok? Ahora, ya que ya tienen desde 2017 con arriba del 90%, ya estamos entrando a una época donde la inversión es para el mantenimiento de la infraestructura, ¿verdad? Eso pasa en Estados Unidos. Y lo que diferenciaba esta zona era de que era saneamiento por primera vez. Entonces, los argumentos de que agencias como la EPA sigan invirtiendo en esto va a ser más y más difícil, especialmente con la visión que tiene el presidente Trump de reducir el tamaño del gobierno y su influencia en los estados, ¿verdad? No sé si ahora pues los estados tendrían que ser los que tendrían que empezar a asumir algunas de esas responsabilidades de poder avanzar el mantenimiento en México. Yo también siento que en lo que es Nogales, algo interesante pasa en Nogales. Nogales no paga el saneamiento, la ciudad de Nogales, Sonora, como en Tijuana, ¿verdad? En San Diego, Tijuana paga el saneamiento. En Nogales es el gobierno federal. Entonces ya están medios mal acostumbrados a no tener las tarifas adecuadas para poder sostener la infraestructura que tienen, ¿verdad? Entonces ese es otro reto que yo pienso que Estados Unidos, el valor agregado es otro país soberano, ¿verdad? Y el valor agregado que tienen las CILAs es que pueden ir identificando esos indicadores de que se está dando el mantenimiento apropiado, el pretratamiento, ¿verdad? Todo eso, porque esto viene siendo una fuente de agua. O sea, la basura de un país es el tesoro del otro, ¿verdad? Es una fuente de agua para esta zona. Y como vemos que el agua acá en Arizona se está escaseando, ¿verdad? Y estamos viendo que ese es algo que estamos viendo que las entregas del Colorado pues, se van a reducir un 20-30% después de 2026 porque ya no se están dando los abastecimientos de la nieve que se daban antes. Y esos niveles de escurrimientos van a ser el valor de esta agua, que es agua saneada aún con más valor. Y lo que van a tener que hacer también, el otro punto que sí quería comentar es la rehabilitación de la planta, el trabajo con México. El tercero va a ser es que la contratación del personal de operación de la planta, ¿verdad? Ahorita el gobierno federal ha congelado todos los puestos. En el caso de Nogales, en la planta de saneamiento, batallamos para conseguir operadores. Programas como en las escuelas de los community colleges de Pima County, ese tipo de certificado que pueda generar operadores para las plantas es muy importante para tener ese banco laboral, ¿verdad? Que es importante para seguir operando la planta, porque la planta es lo que le está generando este insumo para el río, ¿verdad? Entonces nosotros pues tenemos que darle ese mantenimiento.
Muchas gracias, Maria-Elena. Pues tengo dos preguntas más. Primero, el ingeniero Rascon hablaba de que las minutas o el esquema que se utilizó aquí en la planta de Nogales, luego se usó para Tijuana, ¿no? Y a lo mejor en otros lugares también. Tenemos el ejemplo desde el punto de vista de restauración del ecosistema de ríos, pues tenemos el ejemplo del río Colorado a través del Acta 319 y 323. También tenemos el ejemplo del Acta 320 para el río Tijuana. Como que hemos venido evolucionando, ¿verdad? Y la participación en estas actas también ha ido pues evolucionando, se ha ido abierto a organizaciones de la sociedad civil. Mi pregunta concretamente para ambos es, ¿qué podemos utilizar el Acta 319, 323 y quizá la 320 como ejemplos, como modelos para un acuerdo binacional para el río Santa Cruz aquí en ambos Nogales que pueda definir el marco para a enfrentar esos retos que acaban de mencionar? No sé quién quisiera.
Bueno, sí me gustaría comentar un poco sobre la diferencia, por ejemplo, entre las actas 319, 323, 330 con el acta 320. Por ejemplo, las actas 319, 323 que hablan de acciones de cooperación en el río Colorado. Se incluyeron de manera muy específica acciones, recursos, volúmenes. O sea, se dijo hay que hacer una serie de proyectos ambientales o de conservación, etcétera, y con esto, y aquí están los recursos para hacerlo. De ahí para adelante, pues fue relativamente fácil, aunque los tiempos nunca nos alcanzan, saber en dónde íbamos a canalizar esos recursos. Entonces se ha ido implementando los proyectos, a lo mejor no tan rápido como quisiéramos, pero pues se han ido implementando proyectos. Por ejemplo, proyectos de restauración en el delta del río Colorado, pues hicieron unas áreas de restauración ambiental impresionantes ahí en el delta. El Acta 320, que se firma en 2015, lo que hace es establecer un marco general de cooperación sobre los asuntos transfronterizos de la cuenca del río Tijuana, principalmente enfocado hacia lo que es la calidad, el control de la calidad del agua, sedimentos, residuos sólidos. Establece un esquema de cómo hacerlo mediante un grupo base o grupos de trabajo, pero no define proyectos, no define recursos. Una vez que fue firmada el Acta 320, pues los grupos de trabajo empezaron a identificar qué era lo que se requería, obras para el control de sedimentos, de residuos sólidos, de calidad del agua, que generalmente se van a requerir en la parte alta de la cuenca para tratar de alguna manera de mitigar los impactos en la cuenca baja. Entonces se tenían identificadas una serie de obras, sin embargo, pues ha sido poco lo que se ha podido implementar debido a que no se han identificado los recursos para llevarlo a cabo, o sea, a lo mejor se pueden identificar recursos, pero faltan los esquemas para poder aplicar dichos recursos. Entonces, a lo mejor hay una diferencia básica, ¿no? Unas actas en las que de manera específica se identifican proyectos y recursos para llevar a cabo, y otra que son de carácter general, como el Acta 320, en lo que se establece un proceso y un esquema para permitir, o sea, el enfoque del Acta 320 era que los interesados de ahí de la región, que son los que conocen la problemática, fueran los que dijeran esta es la forma de atender esta problemática, y que recomendaran la aprobación a la comisión. Pero bueno, una vez que lo hicieron, entonces el problema estuvo en los recursos. En el Colorado podemos también pensar que hubo una primera acta marco, que fue el Acta 317, donde también se estableció grupos de trabajo, todo un proceso, pero detrás de esa Acta 317 vinieron las actas 319, 323, 330, ya con proyectos muy específicos. ¿Cómo aplicarían estos aquí en la región del río Santa Cruz? De hecho, ya se ha estado platicando sobre desarrollar a lo mejor un acta similar de carácter general como se hizo para la cuenca del río Tijuana. No se ha llegado todavía a la firma de un acta de esa naturaleza, pero sí yo creo que habría que tener en cuenta estas experiencias que se tuvieron en otras regiones para ver si vamos a pasar directamente de un acta marco a las actas específicas, o pasamos por las dos etapas, ¿no? De contar con un acta marco que describa de forma general el proceso, y después, a sabiendas de que vamos a requerir posteriormente actas específicas. Si pensamos en el Acta 320, la realidad es que mientras no identificamos los recursos para llevar a cabo los proyectos que se requieren, no es poco lo que se puede avanzar. Esta sería la experiencia que nos dejan esas actas allá en la cuenca del río Colorado y del río Tijuana.
Elena, si quieres tú complementar, por favor.
Sí, estoy completamente de acuerdo con lo que dice el ingeniero Rascon, de que es curioso porque lo del Acta 320 fue interesante porque yo creo que tomó como 5 años, por lo menos 3 años, mínimo 3 años para desarrollarlo, y ponerse de acuerdo los dos países y luego acordarlo. Y luego empezaron a arrancar las reuniones. Sin embargo, no llegó COVID y como que se enfrió la situación, ¿verdad? Entonces, pues ya se estabilizó un poco la situación de COVID y empezamos a arrancar otra vez, pero ya llegamos al punto donde lo que sí me ha gustado del 320 es que es un proceso interactivo donde se han desarrollado ya se han identificado ya los proyectos y las necesidades. Lo que sí, como dice el licenciado, el ingeniero Rascon, es de que no están los fondos para implementarlo. Y la idea es de que quizás la filantropía o otros pudieran gestionar esto a través de otros programas, y todavía no hemos llegado a ese punto. A lo mejor sí se llega en el futuro porque es algo que es nuevo. Todo viene como al revés. Yo veo que, por ejemplo, muchos de los proyectos, en el caso del Acta 330, por ejemplo, eso vino con recursos, sin embargo, no vino con una estructura de cómo identificar los proyectos, cómo avanzar los proyectos, ¿verdad? Y ese tiene un poco al revés, de que los agricultores pues están peleando entre ellos, hay toda una grilla alrededor de todo eso, ¿verdad? Cuando si hubiera como un tipo de marco de cómo ir avanzando, gestionando a un proceso medio democrático, ¿verdad? Para identificar las oportunidades, a lo mejor hubiera sido distinto. Yo creo que los dos actas, el Acta 330, 323, tiene sus bondades igual que el de Tijuana, Acta 320.
¿Y si promovemos un acta que considere los dos aspectos, será factible? O sea, que sea marco general, pero que venga con recursos también.
O sea, yo creo que cuando queremos adaptar directamente la experiencia en un lugar a otra, se vuelve complicada. Ahora que estamos viendo allá en la región del Bravo, los del Bravo decían, bueno, ¿por qué no hacemos aquí en el Bravo lo que se hizo en el Colorado? Pues allí llegaron, pusieron recursos y empezaron a hacer proyectos de restauración y ya. Evidentemente las condiciones eran distintas, habría que ser creativos para poder encontrar soluciones, se está trabajando en ello, o sea, en el Río Bravo no está así de que vamos a hacer un copy-paste de la región del Colorado. Yo creo que aquí en la región del río Santa Cruz también tenemos tendrían que ser los que conocen la región, los que empiecen a identificar cómo abordarla. Yo creo que se tiene que ver qué es las experiencias que se tuvieron en las otras regiones y ver cuáles de ellas se pueden adaptar aquí, pero seguramente van a ser distintas. Tendrán que discutirse ampliamente y ser creativo para encontrar las soluciones. A lo mejor alguna parte de la solución será lo que se identificó en otras actas, no totalmente, pero algo de ello se puede aprovechar, pero definitivamente tendría que ser un saco a la medida para esta región.
Y sí me gustaría complementar un poco lo del ingeniero Rascon. Yo pienso que sí necesitas los fondos y el marco, ¿verdad? Porque eso ayuda. Pero lo que se va a tener que adaptar es qué es el marco y qué son los fondos, ¿verdad? Y la forma que se aplicaría, porque sí se complementan uno con el otro, ¿verdad? Y pienso que si es algo que ha solicitado la sociedad, pues administraciones cambian, ¿verdad? A lo mejor esta administración entra un poco más estricto y luego van a ir aflojando con el tiempo, ¿verdad? Y ustedes mientras se van preparando, porque ya en el momento, si ustedes como sociedad puedan elevar el perfil del problema, puedan desarrollar qué es la solución y luego involucrar a los miembros del Congreso, que son los tomadores de decisión, esos 3 puntos se conjuntan en su momento y se realiza algo, ¿verdad? Pero tienen que ser los 3 elementos. De hecho, yo soy ingeniero civil y tengo la maestría en administración de empresas, pero decidí no regresar a la escuela a hacer un doctorado en ingeniería porque una de las cosas que yo aprendí trabajando en tantos proyectos con con un variable tan importante que es la gente. La gente es el variable. De hecho, yo quise ser ingeniero porque no quise el variable de la gente, ¿verdad? Todo quedaba en una fórmula. Pero una de las cosas que yo aprendí es una de las teorías de política pública que ayuda a explicar por qué economistas hacen predicciones. política pública trata de explicar por qué se realizaron ciertas acciones. Y hay una teoría de política pública que se llama the Kingdom Theory. Ellos hablan de 3 ríos que tienen que estar en su lugar para que se haga toma de decisión. Uno viene siendo la gente, otro viene siendo la solución y el tercero viene siendo el político, ¿verdad? El tomador. Y si ustedes empiezan a trabajar, eso no va a ser inmediato, pero les digo que vez tras vez yo veo cómo se logran las cosas cuando la gente lo quiere, cuando hay la solución y se involucran los políticos que son los tomadores de decisión.
Muchas gracias, Maria-Elena, ingeniero Rascon.
No les voy a cobrar por esa.
Ok. Bueno, me gustaría abrir para 1 o 2 preguntas del público, aprovechando pues que Maria-Elena nos dice participemos, ¿verdad? Casi nos está diciendo que tenemos que participar la sociedad civil.
Muchas gracias por tus experiencias compartidas y por platicar con nosotros. Yo trabajo aquí con un equipo y somos del condado y hacemos muchas experiencias de la educación ambiental y quiero compartir con los niños aquí los mensajes que ustedes tienen sobre el río, porque ustedes están trabajando mucho con este río, del río aquí. A veces los niños no saben cómo empezar su relación con el río aquí en Arizona o tal vez tienen muchas emociones sobre el río aquí. Entonces yo quería saber si tienes algún como consejo o un mensaje para los niños para que ellos saben lo que ustedes ya tenían mucho tiempo trabajando en.
Bueno, más bien los mensajes son para los educadores, ¿verdad? Porque ellos tienen que dar, de la vista nace el amor, ¿verdad? Y algo yo creo que se ha hecho muy bien en la zona del río Colorado, donde han establecido todo un patrimonio de zona verde, es que llevan a los niños a través de las escuelas a que tengan contacto con la naturaleza, y algo que hacen muy bien aquí en Tucson es la infraestructura verde y combinar la infraestructura gris con la infraestructura verde. Entonces aquí ustedes ya tienen mucho fundamento en el sentido de que ven mucha naturaleza en todos lados, ¿verdad? Y eso ayuda de que ese es algo que ellos van a esperar de su río. Visitar el río. Yo creo que también la investigación que hizo Luke, que fue la primera vez que lo vi en una reunión ciudadana, donde ellos presentaron cómo los peces y los aves y todo eso está regresando. Esa es la manera en que ellos van a empezar a querer su río, ¿verdad? La limpieza del río, proyectos de esa naturaleza, lo que le dicen el service learning, ¿verdad? No hay como impulsar ese amor a lo que viene siendo este patrimonio de la zona. Y igual como hay de surf riders, debería de haber un Santa Cruz Riders, ¿verdad? O lo que sea, ¿verdad? Algo así que permita de que se haga una sociedad alrededor del río, los festivales en el río, todo eso ayuda, ¿verdad?
Bueno, a lo mejor yo no voy a contestar esa pregunta, pero sí me gustaría comentar cómo ha evolucionado el manejo de la comisión respecto al manejo ante el público, ¿no? Al menos en el lado mexicano, inicialmente las negociaciones de cualquier acuerdo era básicamente el gobierno federal. O sea, el gobierno federal era el que se encargaba de negociar con el gobierno de Estados Unidos las soluciones, los acuerdos, etcétera. Poco a poco se fueron incorporando los gobiernos de los estados, los locales, y bueno, un acta de la comisión generalmente refleja a todos los interesados. Sin embargo, a partir del acta 306, allá en el Colorado, se involucra más ya a las organizaciones no gubernamentales. Poco a poco se ha tenido una mayor participación de las organizaciones no gubernamentales. La comisión, inicialmente la sección estadounidense, pero también ya la sección mexicana, ha ido estableciendo lo que son los foros ciudadanos, donde se presenta ahí cuáles son los proyectos, las actividades que realiza la comisión y se escuchan ya los comentarios, las observaciones, las recomendaciones ya directamente de los ciudadanos, ¿no? Entonces ha pasado de ser un foro muy cerrado, donde básicamente era una relación del gobierno federal, a irse abriendo para atender ya los comentarios de los ciudadanos.
Tenemos tiempo para una más. One more question? Yeah? Who is it? Oh, there you are. Okay, Raúl, sorry.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Raúl Ramírez y me van a tener que perdonar porque mi español no está muy bueno todavía. Pero el modo que lo veo y no tengo yo mismo no tengo respeto a la administración del presidente ahorita. Y es un bullying. Y él piensa que sus ideas son las mejores. Entonces, para ver a los Estados Unidos y esperar que haya fondos, para mi punto de vista no es realidad. Entonces la realidad para mí es más para México que se mire solo. Y la presidenta Schambach habla del cuarto transbordamiento, que habla mucho de eso, de lo que está, cómo está México cambiando. Sería entonces y no sé la política, pero sí sería tener presión o tener gente interna que habla de la importancia del border internacional y que comiencen a buscar cómo se puede hallar dinero, fondos, porque la sequía, el drought, va a continuar. Y una historia le voy a contar que yo y mi amigo hace como 10 años fuimos a Sonora y pasamos por Hermosillo y la presa ahí estaba bien seca. Ahora, no he estado ahí por muchos años, pero me acuerdo que estaba sorprendido que estaba tan seco. Entonces Sonora está pasando como Arizona, pero la agua reclaimed water que se puede salvar es importante para México, para Sonora. Al mismo tiempo, nosotros en Arizona, especialmente los que queremos ver algo en el río Santa Cruz, que esté verde, se va a secar, porque sin el agua de México, eso se va a secar. Estoy seguro de eso. Bueno, gracias.
Yo pienso que el tiempo que tiene este esfuerzo va a sobrepasar múltiples administraciones. Obvio que la sociedad tiene que seguir abogando por él, ¿verdad? Y aquí la ventaja que tienen aquí en Arizona es que todo esto fue impulsado en gobiernos republicanos y gobiernos demócratas, ¿verdad? Y yo pienso que en el futuro va a pasar lo mismo. Entonces aquí yo creo que el papel del Estado va a ser aún más importante en términos de fondos y en términos de política para que pueda seguir esto avanzando, porque igual yo lo que veo con la administración ahorita, y eso puede cambiar, ahorita a lo mejor es como dice Trump, the art of the deal, ¿verdad? Empezamos con lo imposible y ya vemos con qué quedamos, ¿verdad? Ya estamos viendo un poco de evolución en ese aspecto. Que aquí puede cambiar eso, sin embargo, el Estado tiene que ir evolucionando, porque déjenme decirles que ahorita el gobierno quieren reducir la huella del gobierno, ¿verdad? Quieren que sea más chico, entonces le están regresando al Estado más responsabilidad. Y esta es una oportunidad para el Estado para hacer eso, ¿verdad? Para realmente poder gestionar la dirección que quieran llevar lo que es este patrimonio del río Santa Cruz.
Pues creo que se nos terminó el tiempo. Quiero agradecer grandemente a Maria-Elena y al ingeniero Rascon, bueno, y a la comisionada Reséndez por haber pues, aceptado nuestra invitación, por compartir su experiencia, conocimiento y pues sabiduría también, ¿verdad? Las cosas que vienen no necesariamente van a ser fáciles, pero bueno, nos van a mantener entretenidos, ¿verdad? Para no hacer travesuras, es lo que dicen, ¿no? Tenemos suficiente para entretenernos y trabajar juntos. Muchas gracias. Les pido un aplauso para nuestros panelistas, por favor.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you both for your candor, your experience, sharing this with us. It was critically important in this binational river to really showcase what has been done, what can be done, and where we have cause for reality and cause for inspiration. So thank you both for that. So we're going to move on to a presentation on the art of the deal. Oh no, it's not art of the deal. It's a project that Sonoran Institute has been working on for really the last 4 years or so, and this is really trying to categorize and understand trash in the Santa Cruz River. We've invested billions of dollars to get clean flowing water in this river again, and while the water is clean and beautiful, there is trash in this river. Tomorrow you'll be hearing some presentations on some research regarding trash in the Santa Cruz River. What I'll be presenting on now is showcasing a pilot project that we installed last year that we have been monitoring ever since to capture this trash before it makes its way into the river at higher up in the watershed. So I just answered this question, why focus on trash in the Santa Cruz River? Look at this, it's beautiful, it's flowing, it's clean. However, wherever you go, whether you are in Nogales, Sonora, whether you're in Nogales, Arizona, Green Valley, Tucson, Marana, trash is a pervasive and pernicious problem. We've invested a lot of money, and when you bring your family in from out of town, or you say, hey, I work on the Santa Cruz River, or I love the Santa Cruz River, you're gonna have to have the asterisk of the trash that you see in the river. This is why we have been researching this. This is a solvable problem. This is a created problem. It's a solvable problem. And I just want to talk with you about a very, very small pilot project to help address this. So I've referred a few times now to the trash research that Sonoran Institute has been doing. I'm not going to spoil the things for the team that's going to be presenting tomorrow, but what we have up on the screen here are two very basic figures that sort of categorize the trash that we are seeing in this river. When you look at trash by category, so like how frequently you see a different type of trash, and we're monitoring 57 different categories of trash in the river. More often than not, what you're seeing is food packaging, right? It's that low-density plastic, your Reese's cup wrappers, your styrofoam, your takeout bags, your brown, single-use grocery bags. The majority of this trash is floatable. Okay, so now we're dealing with high-density, low-weight, floatable trash. What can be done about that? Here we are, I'm about to tell you. Introducing, this is a litter trap that is produced by a company called Stormwater Systems. They're based out of Cleveland, Georgia, US. And they have engineered different versions of these passive litter traps that capture trash higher up in the water column. They are designed specifically to capture floating, low-weight trash. And like I said, these have been installed all over the world, including and maybe especially in locations where it is dry in the riverbed for most of the year, and then when it rains, it is violent. So as much as we love our monsoon storms, we are hardly the only ones in the world who have them. And these traps have long been installed in areas that experience that. So a few features of these litter traps. They are a very easy installation. They come shipped on a pallet. The folks from Stormwater Systems come and help us install them. No special equipments, maybe a couple of like screw heads so that people don't back them out. But these are extremely durable. They're made of high density plastics and stainless steel. They're designed for marine environments and for extremely dry environments like we have here. And they are customized. These are not just a kit. They design these for the specific river system or arroyo or wherever you happen to install these things. So it's not like we're buying one that might be missized. Each one is built specifically for the river system in question. The pilot trap that we installed last summer, it's called the Bandalong Bandit. It's little. You can see here a person next to it for scale. It's kind of the size of like a 55-gallon drum, right? The kind you'd see at like a gas station or in an industrial site. It can hold a capacity of almost 1,000 like regular crunkle, 12-ounce plastic water bottles that you see all over the place, which is the majority of the trash that we see in the river. So even these little ones are especially well adept for the river system that we have, or river systems that we have down here. Just looking at this picture, we are looking upstream, right? So the river, when it flows, and you'll see an example of this, will flow into the trap. The trap will rise up. So another benefit to these is that they come with a no-rise certification, meaning the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't need to be called or referenced, right? They don't build anything in the river channel. They float up and they float back down as the waters come and go. I just took a question, I think, away from you, Julia. So the project partners for the trap that we installed, Stormwater Systems, of course, they developed the product and they helped with installation. Constellation Brands helped us fund this project. Constellation Brands, Modelo, Pacifico, Corona. The Port of Nogales is one of their biggest ports, period. So they really wanted to do something that would benefit the Nogales, Arizona community. And of course, Santa Cruz County and the city of Nogales for their help in hydrologic assessment, permitting, installation, day of support, and ongoing support. So here are some of the bounding conditions for the Bandit. Again, the Bandit's the littlest one of the batch. So we started with a or relatively low expense one of these. So they can hold trash up to 9 to 10 feet per second. They hold trash 9 to 10 feet of flow per second. But breakaway is not a concern. These things, like I prompted at the beginning, have been installed all over the world. 0 have ever broken loose. Even when tree falls happen on them, they have to break one arm loose so that they can get the tree off it, and then they can just click it right back into the mount. And they need a constrained flow channel. As we look into the Santa Cruz River, where, in some cases there are 500-meter wide stretches of the river corridor or of the floodplain, it's not appropriate for that. So you do need something that's a little bit more penned in. Preferably, these would be put in a very highly visible location. These are fascinating to watch, as you're about to see. So let's put these by city parks. Let's put these by locations where people can passively see them or actively see them if they want to go near them during a storm event. So the siting for this, it's installed down in the city of Nogales. For those who aren't familiar, we just talked about Ambos Nogales, right? So this is Nogales, Arizona, right along the border. There's a small little park there called Camp Little Park. And it's just a little pull-off, little park, a couple of benches, and Ephraim Canyon wash runs right through it. So it's sort of a zoom in, and the wash flows sort of this west to easterly along this stretch of the river before it undergrounds. It then connects to Nogales Wash, which then connects to the Santa Cruz River. So this is really high up in this relatively flat watershed. So the process, I worked with the folks from Santa Cruz County, went out there and sketched out a couple of sites just to establish viability with the stormwater systems folks. First day of installation, we kind of had to clear the banks a little bit. Not a whole lot, it's already completely grown back up. Also on that first day, we used an auger to drill down what needed to be a 1 foot wide, but because it was a little rocky and the auger was wobbly, it was about a 3 foot wide by 5 foot deep footing. So you could build a bridge on this footer. As you can see in this third image here, we poured the concrete in and we hung some stainless steel chain with rebar sort of threaded through it. And then we poured the concrete on top of that. So that's really gonna, I mean, this is like a 1,000-year footer that we put in there. And then on the third day, you can see the little litter trap. We just kind of took it off the pallet, walked it down, and installed it. Like this. So that's the litter trap down in the river. Moving the boom arms, right? The boom arms, when the flows come through, will sort of push the trash toward it. Mounting it to the 2 concrete footers that we poured the day before. And now we just wait for the rain. So some early results, we've had 7 flow events since this was installed in July 2024. I immediately, as you can see in the top right picture here, installed a couple of trail cameras so that we could capture storm events and other fun events that came through. It was able to survive the storms just fine. You can see from this middle image that we definitely need to be using bigger litter traps because tires and things like that get snarled in the relatively small aperture of the front of the trap. But even still, this is what a pilot project is supposed to do. They're supposed to maybe fail a little bit and give us a learning lesson from that. When we have been able to get out there during a relatively normal, medium monsoon event, we're seeing everything you're seeing here in the bottom right. It's all plastics, it's all styrofoam. Very typical of what we're seeing in the river corridor. So it's confirmatory of our research, preliminarily. Okay, this video remains Sonoran Institute's most viewed social media piece ever. And this is really all I needed to show you guys for this entire presentation. Right, so you get all of this beautiful water laden with trash and basketballs, if you're gonna call it basketball trash, right? And it just flows. Oh, can I back it up? Yeah. Right, you get the toe of this is why I installed the trash cam, what am I trying to say? Wildlife cameras, trail cameras, and it just works. Now imagine this thing 5 times the size, where the payload can build and build and build and build. You can haul the payload out, and you put it back in, and whatever is left up in the boom arms can then filter through, and if there's nothing left in the boom arms, it's ready for the next storm. These things really, really work. And trail cameras are not just for trash anymore. What we're seeing in here are people. We got these kids that were out here playing in the river after a little monsoon storm. We got skunks. Javelina are all over the place. And I'm pretty sure, please confirm for me, that this guy here in the river is a fox, right? But it's telling. I mean, wildlife are where the trash is. If that's not an alarm bell to deal with trash, like I don't know what is. And kids, like people are really using this river, right? So this makes the case here for us to be doing this more and more. So what are the future plans? Well, continued monitoring. We're really hoping to replicate the installation of these trash traps throughout the Santa Cruz. We're already scoping more locations in Santa Cruz County and then up here in Tucson and Pima County as well. We really want to scale up to a larger model. As we just saw in those previous pictures, one little storm is enough to really fill this thing up. So these bigger versions will really help, including this really clever one here in the bottom right. It's basically a Jersey barrier with big metal basketball hoops sort of carved through it, right? So as it gets full, you can either open the bottom of the net and pull everything out, or take the whole net out, dump it, and reinstall it right back in place. They're really thoughtfully designed. So with that, I just want to acknowledge all of our partners, Santa Cruz County, City of Nogales, Constellation Brands Stormwater Systems, and you all for your interest and participation. Thank you so much. I don't know if we have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? Yeah, I'll run around to you if anybody has any questions. Yeah, Mike. How pricey are they? They're pricey. I think their priciness is commensurate with their effectiveness. That one that we installed, soup to nuts. So purchase, shipping, installation, personnel was $45,000. The bigger ones are closer to, the big ones, which are oversized for the river, are like 150,000. So anywhere between that window, to all of us in the room, that's breathtaking. To the federal and state governments, I think that's a worthwhile investment. Particularly, remember, this one was paid for by a corporation. Even more so, that's a drop in the bucket, right? So more of these pilot projects that we can do, the more we can justify the efficacy, the more research we can continue to do both within the traps and beyond the traps. It really justifies this sort of public-private municipal partnership. So yeah, so who's maintaining that pilot trap? The city of Nogales has been on it before I could get down there and measure the trash that was in there. So they are very, very actively participating and being tremendously helpful. Ultimately, how many do I see installing along the Santa Cruz? I don't know yet. I simply don't know. So I'll take what I've envisioned for Santa Cruz County, where I would ideally like to install these litter traps. The larger versions of them are in 3 locations. So Nogales Wash turns into Potrero Creek, which turns into the Santa Cruz River. Then there's also to the east of that, the Santa Cruz River. They both sort of come together right by the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant. I would like to install one in each of those creeks. Not too close to the border, because when water crosses into the border, it's violent. Remember, these things have a threshold to which they can hold on to the trash. So I want to make sure that where they get installed, the river system is slowed down a little bit, but where capture is reasonable. Then, because there is a 15-acre trash blockage of the river on the north end of Tumacacori National Historical Park, I'd like to install one maybe just upstream of the park as well to capture anything that the traps below it don't. That's really the way that, Santa Cruz County is a great case study for this, because we sort of have that wishbone shape. Up here in Tucson and Pima County, I simply don't know. We have about 16 major washes that drain into the river. Each one probably needs one, but then we have this larger diffuse flow of trash into the river, and in the urban corridor of the Santa Cruz, it's beyond the capacity of these litter traps. It's either too wide or too strong. So we really need to get it at the tributaries. So I don't think that there's much of a ceiling for how many of these we could install. It would just be cost and space and operations and maintenance prohibitive. Okay, I have 2 minutes for one more question. Yeah, Ben.
Constellation Brands was the one Friends of Santa Cruz put you in contact with.
That's correct. I will edit this, thank you, yes. So Friends of the Santa Cruz River, Ben is the president of Friends of the Santa Cruz River, put us in connection with Constellation Brands and many of the other partners that made this thing into a reality. I will please mentally amend this slide to have Friends of the Santa Cruz River in there, probably in the biggest font.
The other thing is, that was Ephraim Canyon, that's Western Avenue, and a very small tributary compared to the river. That kind of trash rack probably would not work in the river if it makes sense. I think we've been looking at this ourselves. We're looking at 3 different kinds, because you have refrigerators, you have trucks coming down, you have trees coming down the main stem of the river, and most of the trash, we are pretty much convinced, comes down Nogales Wash. Yep. And so in the river, we're looking at 3 different sites. One of them to
So thank you, Ben. So to the question that I was talking about, that sort of wishbone shape, with equal types of litter traps installed within each one. Ben's sighting and Friends of the Santa Cruz sighting is suggesting almost like a mesh filter type where coarser materials to progressively lighter and lighter materials get captured as you move further downstream. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to a sort of newer facet that we're doing here for Research Days, where we're going to be factoring in some videos that folks have made about and around the Santa Cruz River. So we're going to watch this video, 5-minute video called Wildlife at Tumacacori National Historical Park. Following that, we're going to be on break until 2:40, at which point we're going to pick things right back up. So please sit tight for this video. Please don't forget, we have coffee that was generously donated by Coffee Times on Speedway. We have a bunch of snacks over here, and hit it.
Tumacacori National Historic Park in southern Arizona was designated to protect the remnants of a Spanish-era mission church and the thousands of years of indigenous history that preceded it. However, the park also includes a critical portion of the Tumacacori National Historic Park in southern Arizona was designated to protect the remnants of a Spanish-era mission church and the thousands of years of indigenous history that preceded it. However, the park also includes a critical portion of the Santa Cruz River, which flows year-round and has been used as a source of water for crop irrigation since time immemorial. The river and its lush riparian forest of cottonwood and mesquite trees supports an incredible diversity of wildlife that the park helps to protect. Biologists with the National Park Service have been using wildlife cameras to help document this wonderful biodiversity and highlight the abundance of life that is supported by the river. Some of the animals along the Santa Cruz River in Tumacacori are rarely seen anywhere else in the United States. Wildlife cameras are triggered when an animal steps in front of them, capturing a little bit of the animal's daily lives. Come along with us as we see what animals are doing at a few special places along the river in the park. Cameras focused on the water have documented waterfowl and other animals in the river itself. Some animals wade across the river. While other animals can simply jump across the river. Trees that fall across the river become popular bridges for wildlife species to use. This bobcat is commuting with a wood rat snack. And this mountain lion is carrying a much larger to-go lunch. The log's bark also provides good nesting material for this owl. And sometimes there's traffic on the log. Some animals get really curious about the camera. The branches of riparian trees provide popular perches for many songbirds. Many birds use these perches to look for flying insect snacks. Or stopping to eat a juvenile catfish straight out of the river. And sometimes you have to make room for the next meal. This bird thinks it's time to look elsewhere. Riparian forests are excellent travel corridors for many larger wildlife species. Some animals are looking for snacks in the forest, and others may decide to stop and have a sip of water. Thanks for coming along with us today to see some of the animals that live along the Santa Cruz River. We hope to see you soon at Tumacacori National Historic Park or other places along the river.
Until 2:40. Again, restrooms are out either side of the door. We have a water fountain just outside of the door as well to the right. Please caffeinate, meet somebody you haven't met before, and again, thank you all so much for being here. See you in 15 minutes.
Today we'll be talking about the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership. To provide a brief overview, on the screen is the definition of the Urban Partnership Program. The Urban Conservation Program, which it is housed under, was officially established as a key policy initiative in 2015. This program marked a significant shift in our approach to conservation by placing a strong emphasis on the value of partnerships and recognizing the importance of being a community asset. Again, the definition of this policy is displayed on the screen. I will not read that, but it does outline our guiding principles and objectives. The program aims to support conservation efforts on lands not owned or managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service by actively engaging local communities. This collaborative approach fosters a sense of stewardship and enhances conservation outcomes. Central to the Urban Wildlife Conservation Program is the belief that strong relationships with local communities are vital for conservation success. Our community building efforts encourage innovation, individual participation, and polite resolution of differences. The program is guided by 8 key standards of excellence. These are know and relating to the community, using stepping stones to engage people in nature, building partnerships, being a community asset, ensuring adequate long-term resources, providing equitable access, ensuring visitors feel safe and welcome, and modeling sustainability. Within the Urban Wildlife Conservation Program, communities and cities can receive various designations to recognize their commitment to wildlife conservation and that community engagement. The first designation is the Urban Wildlife Refuge, which is in that blue box on the screen. This is a land-based designation aimed at establishing a protected area that cater to more urban populations, and this is land that is owned and managed by the Fish and Wildlife Service. The second designation is the Urban Wildlife Partnership. Unlike the Urban Wildlife Refuge, the Urban Wildlife Partnership is place-based rather than land-based. It focuses on conservation initiatives that do not require a land ownership or management by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, allowing for a broader scope of collaborative efforts in conservation. That's that light purple box on the screen, housed underneath the Urban Partnerships orange box. Finally, we have the Urban Bird Treaty City designation, which emphasizes the creation of bird-friendly environments. This designation involves collaboration among federal, state, and municipal agencies, non-governmental organizations, community groups, and academic institutions. Together, these entities work to foster opportunities for people to connect with nature through bird-related activities, promoting biodiversity and community engagement. The city of Tucson and the Southern Arizona have examples for each of these different boxes. So a notable example for the Urban Wildlife Refuge box is that the Santa Cruz River Refuge Coalition is currently working to create a wildlife refuge that meets this specific criteria, which is serving a population of 250,000 or more and be within 25 miles of that population. The second is that the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership was recently designated end of 2024 because of the collaboration of the Refuge Coalition and numerous local community partners. Notably, the Santa Cruz River designation was really the first of its kind by being established through the signing of a memorandum of understanding, which I will touch on next. And finally, the Tucson Bird Alliance, formerly Tucson Audubon Society, has recently submitted an application for Tucson to receive the designation of an urban bird treaty city, reflecting the area's commitment to fostering bird conservation. Importantly, all three of these designations are not mutually exclusive. A community or city can hold one, two, or all three designations simultaneously, enabling a multifaceted approach to wildlife conservation. This flexibility allows communities to tailor their conservation strategies to best fit their unique landscapes and needs. So today I will be focusing on the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership, that second designation, and briefly provide some updates on the Urban Wildlife Refuge and Urban Bird Treaty City designations, but I understand that there's a presentation following me. So what is the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership? The Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership is an innovative and collaborative initiative designed to bring together a diverse group of stakeholders committed to the preservation and enhancement of our shared natural resources. This partnership serves as a dynamic intersection where various goals, activities, and objectives converge, fostering collaboration across multiple sectors. That's why this that looks similar to a four-star solar system kind of comes into play. At the core are the signatory partners of our Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. These dedicated organizations work collectively to synergize their efforts and resources, ensuring a unified approach to wildlife conservation and habitat management. By establishing clear agreements through the MOU, we laid the groundwork for effective cooperation and accountability among partners. In the next tier are our key nonprofit collaborators. Our notable nonprofit partners are the Wilderness Society and the Sonoran Institute, who are instrumental in advancing our mission and these efforts. They play a vital role in bridging connections between the partnership and broader community networks. Their expertise and advocacy efforts not only strengthen our initiatives, but also enhance engagement with local stakeholders, ensuring that community interests and voices are represented. Finally, there is the engagement with the Refuge Coalition. Through these nonprofit partnerships, we are creating valuable linkages to the Refuge Coalition and various community members. This network fosters communication and collaboration among diverse groups, ranging from conservationists to local residents, which is essential for developing effective strategies that address shared concerns and goals. So the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership exemplifies overall our commitment to creating a sustainable future for wildlife and their habitats. By working together in this system, solar system, so to speak, we leverage our collective strengths to tackle challenges, share knowledge, and promote best practices in conservation. We envision a vibrant community where wildlife thrives and all partners contribute meaningfully to the health of our ecosystems. So what's been done? We have really been focusing on the African proverb of if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, so while our progress may not be rapid, it does reflect our commitment to building trust within the community and fostering collaboration, ensuring that all stakeholders have a voice and a place at the table. In early fall 2024, the Fish and Wildlife Service hosted 2 community meetings to formulate for the formation of the partnership and provide updates on the refuge planning process. These meetings were essential for engaging the community and gathering valuable input. Following this, in November, we achieved the significant milestone I mentioned before by officially designating the partnership. And as I said earlier, this was noteworthy because it was the first urban partnership established outside of the traditional grant process. In January of 2025, the Fish and Wildlife Service, alongside partners from Pima County, the City of Tucson, Sonoran Institute, and the Wilderness Society, special thanks again to the Sonoran Institute and Wilderness Society for their planning efforts, collaborated to provide regional refuge leadership with a tour of potential partnership and refuge sites. At the same time, the Fish and Wildlife Service and partners made progress on the refuge planning front with the landscape conservation design and land protection strategy receiving approval at the Fish and Wildlife Service director level. Together, we are laying the groundwork for a successful and collaborative future. During the fall community meetings that I mentioned, several important themes surfaced, with one consistently standing out: the need to support community initiatives and interests that are already there. In ongoing discussions with our core partners, we are actively working to establish these foundational pillars within our implementation plan. However, it's important to note that these pillars are still under consideration, you could say construction, and not yet finalized. These draft pillars of the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership aim at supporting community initiatives and interests by including conservation, restoration, wildlife and habitat monitoring, and community engagement and education. We believe that these pillars have really boiled down the key elements from those discussions and will continue to guide our efforts and foster strong collaboration as we move forward. However, your continued input will still be invaluable in shaping them into a final framework that truly reflects the community's needs. This brings me to kind of going over a little bit in terms of each one. So I cannot state this enough, but the Fish and Wildlife Service is dedicated to fostering collaboration with our core partners, those organizations that have formally committed through the memorandums of understanding to enhance conservation along the Santa Cruz River corridor. Together, we are embarking on this crucial journey to create a robust draft implementation plan targeted for completion by the end of summer 2025. It's hard to believe that that's just around the corner. The implementation plan will serve as a strategic roadmap, outlining featured actions and objectives that are not only ambitious, but also grounded in measurable outcomes. Our aim is to transform conceptual goals into tangible actions that will drive measurable change in our conservation efforts. Each objective within the plan will be designed to be actionable and quantifiable, enabling us to track our progress effectively and communicate that progress to everyone else. By setting clear benchmarks, we will ensure that all partners can evaluate our advancements and make data-driven, science-based decisions through the process. To promote efficiency and accountability, our featured actions will be aligned with specific timeframes. This structured approach will allow us to prioritize our initiatives and monitor our achievements, ensuring that we stay on course to meet our conservation objectives. As we move forward, we continue to invite ongoing engagement and feedback from everyone so that we can leverage our collective expertise and resources to make that meaningful impact along the river corridor. So, in parallel with the development of the implementation plan, the Fish and Wildlife Service and our dedicated partners are actively working to evaluate various options for land protection. This evaluation is essential as it allows us to identify key areas that require preservation and to assess potential strategies for safeguarding these habitats. Protecting the Santa Cruz River is instrumental in maintaining its ecological integrity, ensuring the long-term health of local wildlife and human populations. We are pleased to announce that our partners have successfully received the America the Beautiful grant, which is a significant resource that will bolster efforts in this regard. This grant will facilitate a thorough evaluation of potential protection strategies and support the drafting of the essential documentation required for a potential wildlife refuge designation. We are also thrilled to share that the Tucson Bird Alliance has again officially submitted an application for Tucson to be designated as an urban bird treaty city. This initiative is part of the broader effort to promote conservation and enhance community engagement with our feathered friends. By seeking this designation, the Tucson Bird Alliance intends to cultivate a more bird-friendly urban environment in Tucson, which will not only support local bird species, but also enhance the quality of life for its residents. The planned designation of Tucson as an urban bird treaty city is expected to be this fall, so fall 2025. And this will synergize with our existing wildlife partnership designation and the end of summer 2025 implementation plan. By aligning these two initiatives, we strengthen our approach to urban wildlife conservation, providing a comprehensive framework that addresses the needs for both birds and other wildlife in our area. So again, this dual designation, then down the road, if we get the urban wildlife designation, will be all three of those boxes and will allow us to leverage the strengths of all programs, enhancing our ability to engage with community members, local organizations, and governmental entities. It creates further opportunities for projects and initiatives that promote that habitat preservation and restoration, educational outreach, and community participation. So with the Urban Bird Treaty City designation and Wildlife Partnership designation, we overall envision a greater Tucson area where urban landscapes seamlessly integrate with nature, where residents not only enjoy and admire birds, but also engage actively in their conservation. This initiative aims to establish a lasting legacy of environmental stewardship, fostering a deeper connection between our community and the natural world. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for your time and attention today. I am again sorry for being late. And as I've discussed, the Urban Conservation Program and its various designations, particularly the Santa Cruz River Wildlife Partnership, represent a significant commitment by the Fish and Wildlife Service to enhance both wildlife conservation and community engagement in the Southern Arizona area and the greater Tucson area. Each initiative not only presents a unique opportunity for collaboration, but also requires meticulous planning. To achieve the goals and actions of our partnership, the Fish and Wildlife Service is currently evaluating our internal capacity and collaborating with our partners to establish timelines for completing the drafts of both the implementation plan and the land protection plan. This structured approach will ensure that we remain focused and accountable throughout our progress. It is important here to emphasize that your involvement is crucial. Your insights and engagement will help shape the final implementation plan and ensure it aligns with community needs. We encourage you to share your thoughts and ideas as we finalize the pillars of our partnership and create actionable steps for the future. So please come forward with your ideas, come forward with your creativity and innovation. And again, thank you for your commitment to this essential work, and I really look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Yes.
The country. And I'd also like to recognize my colleague Rebecca Perez here also in Tucson. It's the two of us in Arizona, but we're managing to get stuff done, and this is one of those things. So yeah, I want to also recognize that Charles Hofer from the Fish and Wildlife Service was originally scheduled to present on the Wildlife Refuge Initiative. He has been caught up in the fork in the road and all the craziness going on with our federal employee friends, and he's no longer with the service, so I'm pitch hitting. Do you want to talk about the refuge? As Nichole mentioned, there are 3 different designations that an area can receive. So of course we want all 3, but I'm going to talk specifically about the river refuge itself. So just to give you, I was told to stand in the middle here, but am I blocking folks? Should I like move around? Good, okay. So I want to give you just a kind of a sense of scale here of what we're talking about and maybe a bit of history. Briefly, we started looking at creating a new national wildlife refuge in urban Tucson for 2 reasons. One was the Fish and Wildlife Service themselves realized that the traditional wildlife refuges, think COFA, Cabeza Prieta, Buenos Aires here in Arizona, they're not near people. They're established for the recovery of a particular species, and they wanted to have more interaction with their human constituents and demonstrate the value that the Fish and Wildlife Service provides. So they were particularly interested in urban refuges, and there are a bunch around the country. There's one right where I grew up, right next to the Philadelphia International Airport and Interstate 95. It's a wetland. But in the West, there aren't too many. The nearest one to us is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, by the airport there. The other reason we were looking to create a wildlife refuge was the Fish and Wildlife Service, through the Department of Interior, has the ability to create or expand new refuges on their own authority. They do not need an act of Congress, and they do not need an order from the White House. So that seemed to us at the time to be a more efficient process to pursue. The scope started in urban Tucson, but it pretty quickly expanded. And this will show you the watershed from the headwaters in the San Rafael Valley, where the river flows south into Mexico, makes a U-turn, as we heard earlier today, comes back into Arizona by Nogales through Rio Rico, where treated effluent is being put into the river channel. And that has established several, like more than a dozen miles of free-flowing Santa Cruz River in Santa Cruz County and into Pima County. And then when it gets here, it flows through the San Javier district of the Tohono Nation just south of town. And then by the airport, there's another place where treated effluent is being put in the river. And then at Roger Road, if you're from Tucson, the new water treatment plant there is yet another place. So this is an effluent-dependent river system. But the quality of the effluent, like this is not your 1990s effluent. This is much better treated water, a lot cleaner. It's supporting wildlife, including Gila top minnow. So the values of the place are many. Historically, as someone mentioned earlier today, I think it was the Boundary Waters presentation, people used to go to the river as an amenity, as a place to have a picnic or ride their horse or take the family or do laundry or whatever. It was central to the community. And in fact, Tucson is here because of the Santa Cruz River. Historically, a place of agricultural production going back 4,000 years, so pre-European contact, and then through the Mission Trail and then the interstate. And the fact that there was water here and you could grow food was why Tucson became a place. There's also biological values to the river. Riparian systems, particularly in an arid landscape, are super important for wildlife, both as places where they can get a drink, but also as de facto wildlife movement corridors. And that may be particularly true for avian species that migrate hemisphere-wide, and they use river systems in this part of the world as a key to their flyway. Oh, and the loop trail. How could I forget? Pima County does have the loop trail, which follows the Santa Cruz River on both sides, heavily used by bikers, hikers, walkers, strollers, everything. This is more of a biological focus slide. So the map on the left is the Tucson Bobcat Project, where collared female bobcats, this is basically their home ranges. Each individual female has a different color, and the colors indicate the home ranges. And you'll see that they're packed right next to each other. They're neighbors. And it does not come to the east side of the river because the project didn't look on the east side of the river. But it's highly likely that bobcats are using more undisturbed land on the east side of the Santa Cruz, as well as all of that land you can see on the west side and up into the Tucson Mountains. And then on the right-hand side, this is zoomed out a little bit. This is the entirety of the Santa Cruz watershed, and it is showing you total species richness. So the darker blue means more total species richness in that area. And I wanted to show you these two pictures to illustrate two things. One, an urban environment can still support native wildlife, hence the bobcat map. And bobcats, they're not small. Well, they're small, but they're not lower down on the food chain. So if they're still present in an environment, a lot of other species under them in the hierarchy are also likely still thriving. And then on the right-hand side, that just shows you the regional significance of the Santa Cruz River in terms of its watershed importance. So why a National Wildlife Refuge? It's the highest standard of federal land protection that the federal government can apply. It is also, in this case, a recognition of the really great work that local nonprofits, local community groups, local municipalities have done to bring back the Santa Cruz River to a functioning ecosystem again. And it also then opens the door for sharing expertise with our federal partners and also the potential for additional federal funding for programs in the area. And I've been talking a lot about it, but let's just take a look at what it looks like. This is a stretch down by Rio Rico. This actually, I think this slide was in Luke's presentation. I recognize the tree. You can see here along the river that cottonwood gallery forest right adjacent to the flowing water itself, but you also notice how thin that ribbon of life is. When you think about flyways, that's how fragile some of these arid land flyways are. This is in Tucson. This is actually just south of the Roger Road outfall pipe, which you can see kind of right there where the yellow is. That's where water comes out of the treatment plant into the river. I happened to take this photograph the morning after a rainstorm, so there was actually rainwater flowing south of the pipe as well. And when you look at this picture, you'll notice you don't see cottonwood gallery forest here like you did in the previous pictures. That's a result of how long good quality treated effluent water has been put into the river channel. South of us, it's been going on for much longer. That vegetation has had a chance to recover and grow. Not yet here, but in 10, 20 years, you could see cottonwood gallery forests in this stretch of the Santa Cruz as well. And then finally, a photograph from some elevation just to give you a different perspective on the landscape and how the wash systems that feed into the Santa Cruz River are all connected. So when we talk about a wildlife refuge for the Santa Cruz River, we also have intentions then of engaging with communities along the major tributaries. And that's not just the Riito and the Pantano, that's the Julian Wash, that's Arroyo Chico, that's any wash in the basin, frankly, that ultimately finds its way into the Santa Cruz. And this picture kind of demonstrates that. These wash systems and rivers are really the circulatory system of the landscape. Two more maps. On the left, again, the scale, showing you the Tucson Basin and some of the other tributaries that would flow into the Santa Cruz. And then on the right, let's talk properties. Nichole mentioned that the urban partnership agreement is not land-based. It's for land that the federal government does not own or manage. A refuge is decidedly land-based. And so you also might be asking yourself, well, where's their federal land along the Santa Cruz River? And the answer to that is the Tumacacori National Historic Park. But there are other properties that could be acquirable. So these are, I starred the ones that are currently under consideration. In the south, there is a private landowner that has about 9,000 acres of property, give or take, a lot of San Cayetano Mountain, a lot of the actual flowing Santa Cruz River, like a dozen miles of it, and also some of the major tributaries feeding into it, including Josephine Canyon, Calabasas Canyon, et cetera. That family basically has been recreating the Baca Float number 3 and taking what became a fragmented parcel of land and putting it back together under one ownership. They are very much interested in seeing that put into conservation for perpetuity. So it would be a great acquisition for the Fish and Wildlife Service as the base property for the refuge. This is also the reason now why it's not just the Tucson Urban Refuge idea anymore. It is now Mexico to Marana. Farther north, Pima County has identified some properties of theirs that they think they would either be interested in transferring, selling, donating, or co-managing with the Fish and Wildlife Service. Some of those are south of town. Someone mentioned the Desert Vista campus for PCC. Right across from that is one of those starred properties. And then here in urban Tucson, the base of a mountain, so adjacent to Mission Garden, is a possibility, and also the old Roger Road treatment site, which is now Pima County is looking to decide what they want to do with that. Here are some quick pictures. This is one of the tour groups at the base of a mountain. This is the decommissioned Roger Road water treatment plant. The University of Arizona Center for Architecture and Landscape Planning and Design is looking at creative reuse of the site. Is there a way that you could keep some of the existing infrastructure as an homage to the past, but then reconvert the rest of that approximately 50-acre parcel into perhaps NGO offices, maybe a visitor center, and open space? And we have gotten a lot of support in a very short period of time. So Pima County Board of Supervisors, Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, Tucson City Council, the San Javier District of the Tohono O'odham Nation have all passed resolutions of support for creating a national wildlife refuge along the Santa Cruz. And then we also have a bunch of local community members, from nonprofit organizations to community groups to individuals, and we're always looking to add to this list. So if you're interested in expressing formal support for this proposal, chat with me afterwards or tomorrow, and be happy to add your name to the list. Next steps, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is currently in the third stage of a 3-step process to create a refuge. That's called the Landscape Protection Plan. It basically is the document that justifies why the federal government should spend money and time and staff to create this refuge and manage it going forward. We're hoping that that draft is completed this summer, maybe into fall. I want to point out that it will go through the NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, public comment period. So you will have an opportunity to have your voice heard on the plan that gets developed. And again, hopefully that will be later this year. If that is signed by the director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, we get our refuge, and then we start looking at base properties and other acquisitions. There would likely be a big boundary drawn around the Santa Cruz River called an acquisition boundary. And if there is a suitable property within it and a willing seller, then that property could be acquired by the Fish and Wildlife Service and repurposed into the refuge as a visitor center or a plant nursery or an interpretive area or what have you. And if you're a private landowner and you're within that boundary, absolutely no effect on your property. It just gives you one more potential buyer should you ever decide to sell or transfer. So that's my presentation for today. Thanks for your attention. Happy to take questions, and I'll be around during the breaks if you want to chat then. Thank you.
So we have time for some questions, both for the presentation that Mike just gave and for the presentation that Nichole gave a little bit earlier. I see one right here. Into the mic, please.
Hi, thank you. To what extent do you think the actions that are occurring at the federal level might have on the proposed plan?
Yeah, the question is what impact might the federal actions that we're seeing have on this refuge plan? I didn't think I'd get out of here without that question. It's already in effect. Charles was supposed to do this presentation. Charles was doing the primary work, drafting the land protection plan. So yeah, it's an issue. There has been a transition within the service. I've met the new planner in the region who's supposed to be picking up this body of work. We're having discussions about how maybe we can make that as easy a process for him as possible. Pardon? For the drafting the plan or for the? Yeah, the question is the funding there for transferring the property? Should we get a refuge? Short answer is no, but that's generally because it's a cart and horse problem at the moment. There's not really anyone looking to dedicate funding to a thing that's not real. If the refuge gets established, though, there are people in line to provide funding. And so some of that would come from the US government. There is a program called the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a really neat little thing that not a lot of people know about. It takes revenues that the federal government gets from companies that want to lease oil and gas drilling rights in the Gulf of Mexico, and then those monies become available for conservation actions, including land acquisition elsewhere in the country. And that's been used in the past a lot to do federal land purchases for conservation. So we'll certainly be looking at that should this refuge become real. There are also private land trusts that have already engaged with the family in Rio Rico about purchasing that from them and holding it in the interim until the refuge could acquire funding to buy it from the land trust. So there are a couple of mechanisms there, but all of that hinges on getting this land protection plan done and signed.
Anything online, Claire?
I wanted to jump in real quick to offer a little bit of clarification on something in terms that once the land protection plan is finalized and hopefully signed, that does not designate the refuge. It gives the ability for the refuge's realty branch to become involved. So it does not mean like, yes, it's now a refuge, but that is the last kind of final paperwork stage before it turns over to realty. So I just wanted to clarify that so that way after it's signed, there isn't any kind of confusion.
Nichole, that's because it has to be land-based. So there has to be some initial land-based to form the refuge, yes?
Yes, there would have to be a purchase of land. So that is through our realty program. So the land protection plan would be finalized, signed, and then realty would get involved and see if there's the ability to purchase land.
So you showed that beautiful river of green, that thin ribbon of habitat. When you're looking at the area overall and you have these flowing reaches of the Santa Cruz River punctuated by these long ephemeral stretches, how close together do you need this hydro-riparian habitat if you're thinking about new restoration projects? You know, how widely spaced can those habitats be to realize some benefit for what critical species?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, how contiguous does it need to be, or can you get by with gaps? And some of the gaps also includes, and Luke is more informed on this than me, but it also depends on the depth of the bedrock below the surface and whether or not the water can still be moving, migrating through the soil subterraneanly, or if it gets pushed up to the surface. I don't think it needs to be fully contiguous, and it probably varies by species. The other thing I should have mentioned is that having this flyway, particularly for avian species here in the Santa Cruz, would be a hedge against something bad happening on the San Pedro, which is currently the only fully formed flyway north-south, and that river is under threat.
Excellent questions, excellent presentations. Thank you so much, Nichole and Mike.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here, Nichole. We are only a little bit behind. We caught up real good. Now it is an honor to bring up Michael Mulcahy from the University of Arizona and a Santa Cruz River Research Days VIP, or who am I trying to say? Jacelle's been here before. So Jacelle Ramon-Sauberan from the Tohono Community College will be presenting and showing us No Place for Isolation, Living in the Desert. Come on up.
Okay, great. Okay. I could have done that more gracefully 10 years ago. Thank you for the invitation here to the Sonoran Institute and then everyone else who's involved. I'm learning quite a lot, and it's very inspiring what I'm seeing and all of the work that other organizations are doing for the mighty Santa Cruz. I am here to present a short video, so I just want to run through some of the context for it first. This is a part of a project that I started 2 years ago called Making Arizona. It's a public impact campaign with the idea of what it says, helping Arizonans better understand the effects of climate change and to motivate them to take action. So it's got 3 components: short video profiles, we're going to watch one today, a resource-based website, and then public events, and we've had several public events. The project as a whole right now is sort of in stasis. I'm working on the second video, which is about extreme heat, especially extreme heat is experienced by people who are living in either manufactured or mobile homes. And I've run out of funding for the public events and the resource-based website, but who knows? This is a quote from the video that we're going to watch, and this is Dr. Jacelle Ramon-Sauberan, who is the VIP, but unfortunately is not here today. She is ill, but sends her regards and would like to make sure that if you are interested in contacting her, she is more than happy to share her dissertation, which is about the history of land and water use on the Santa Cruz, especially within the boundaries of what is now the Tohono and the San Javier district. So this video is essentially encapsulated, I think, by Jacelle's quote. And so if you are interested in any more, you can use that QR code to go out to the website. Otherwise, I'd really just like to play the video, and then if there's any time for questions. And again, I'm really sorry that Jacelle's not here because she's very articulate, but you will see and hear her.
You can, yep, you can go for that one if you want. Yep, push up. Remember how to get under it? There you go. Thank you, Lydia. She's trying to catch it for you. All right! Awesome job! All right. When we go out and we harvest the saguaro fruit, it's a team effort. So you have one person that's actually picking the saguaro fruit. You have another person that's collecting it in the bucket. I'm gonna hit this one and then I can help you. You also have another person that's a spotter that's going ahead and figuring out the next saguaro to pick from. That's how we are resilient, is being with each other and being together, and cooperation is how we make it through the world. That's how we are successful. Skugdash Anyap Jugi Jacelle Ramon-Sauberan Shugapwak Amachit. Good day, my name is Jacelle Ramon-Sauberan, and I come from the Santa Cruz district on the Tohono Nation. We are currently in the Santa Cruz River Basin within the Santa Cruz district boundaries. The name in O'odham for Sanivir is Walk, which means where the water goes in. And that was in reference to the aquifers that help feed the Santa Cruz River at one point in time. Walk O'odham have been farmers for time immemorial, and the Santa Cruz River was our main water source. We would at times farm almost year-round because we had the Santa Cruz River. Everything was really centered around the Santa Cruz River for us in Sanivir. Women would go down with their pottery and fill up at the river. Children would go and play in the river, wash clothes down at the river. Even my great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather utilized and had canals that came from the Santa Cruz into their farm fields. I loved hearing these stories growing up from my grandma Lena, talking about what it once looked like in Sanivir. I found this photo of when she was a little girl, and the photo was taken where I'm standing right now. There was this beautiful farmhouse that was standing here at one point in time, and it belonged to my great-grandfather, Frank Rios. He farmed this land. There's pictures of him out in the farm fields talking to individuals that are O'odham and non-O'odham. He's sharing his knowledge. It's very much part of our Himathug, sharing the knowledge and passing it on from generation to generation. Our creator always told us, only take what you need, because there are others in terms of plants and animals, insects, again, just others that need this water source as well. That was always our mindset with water, with, picking the saguaro fruit, with picking, cholla buds, prickly pear, anything. And we, for time immemorial, were able to maintain the water source in the Santa Cruz River. And then you have others that come into your ancestral land where you've lived, and they don't have that same mindset. They were not taught the same way, and so they just take, and take. And then we began to notice the flow of the Santa Cruz River started to change. It decreased. That was because you had the city of Tucson growing. You had non-O'odham farmers living close proximity, and the Sarco mine. They came in the 50s, and same thing. They started to pump and take to the point where there was no more Santa Cruz River. There was no longer an Ari Acamel, which is what we called the Santa Cruz River. It took away our livelihood. Farming was just something of the past. The elders in Sanivir didn't want this to continue on like this. There was just this sadness, of not being able to see our farm fields, growing, see the lush green. And so they got together and decided to hold those accountable that depleted the Santa Cruz River. And it took some time. It was a lot of different entities and folks that had interest in this. The Tohono Nation actually represented the Sanivir district in a lawsuit named the Southern Arizona Water Rights Settlement Act of 1982, or in short, SWARSA, was able to bring the Central Arizona Project to Tucson. It's a blessing to see water flowing again in the Santa Cruz. It means a lot to us as O'odham, because we can now talk about water in a present tense versus before it was always talked about, in the past. But it took 19 years from 1982 into the 2000s before we actually saw the water, because then you had to build the pipeline. You had to find a way for a route to be able to build all of that to then come to Sanivir. Also to rebuild our farmlands, because when we weren't farming, it left our land in bad shape. And so the elders and others that attended those meetings at our rock house said, okay, we're on the same page, let's do something. And so from that plan, thus the creation of the co-op farm. This wasn't something that happened overnight. You had individuals that were dedicated to making sure our traditional ecological knowledge continued, making sure that farming was, brought back again. I'm very proud of the co-op farm because of what my community did, how they came together, restored the land, cared for it, brought it back to life to what you see here today. So Himathug translates to our way of life. But if you break the word down and you have the first part, him, translates to your behavior, how you act, how you present yourself, how you treat other people. And then Dag, D-A-G, derives from Ibathug, which means your heart. So your spirit, your love, your energy. And so you put all that together and you're looking at how you fit into that world, how you fit into your community, your family. The decisions you're going to make are going to affect your family, your community. And then also thinking bigger picture, cooperation, relationality, the connectedness, the community, that all comes together, and that's how we have survived.
We do have a few minutes if anybody has any questions for Michael. And I'll also add that Jacelle, 2 years ago, I think, gave a extended presentation at Research Days, which is going to be available or is available on Sonoran Institute's Vimeo page. So if you would really like to see a long cultural history, I said that wasn't the right tone for that long. A thoughtful, long cultural history of the San Javier District and the Tohono Nation. It's available on Sonoran Institute's Vimeo page. So, any questions for Michael? I'll come down. Yes. Actually, if you just do a full read.
Sure.
Michael, could you tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do with the website?
Yeah, thank you. The original idea behind the website was to be a clearinghouse of existing work, both locally, statewide, and nationally, for people who are interested in finding out more about climate change, but specifically how it's relating to Arizona. And we were able to do some work, but not anywhere near the amount that I'd like to have done, where there would have been educational resources from K to 12. So I think the original idea was grander, or at least more built out than what I've been able to do. But the idea was, again, to collect and offer resources that teachers could use, community organizations could use, individuals could use. That's the basic idea.
Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Okay, so we're sort of now in an educational block. This has all been educational, but education-specific block of research days. To that end, I'd like to bring up Ana Costa from the Pima County Conservation Lands and Resources, who will be presenting on reflecting on water, education, and connection at the Santa Cruz River. And it's a choose your own adventure for how you want to get up here.
All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. A year ago today, I was a middle school science teacher, so I'd feel a lot more comfortable if you were all just like 13-year-olds, so I'm going to get in that mode. I've been plugged into this community at the Santa Cruz River for a little less than a year now, and I'm excited to share our small piece of the puzzle from Conservation Lands and Resources and the environmental education team, but I'm really inspired every time I get to hear about what you folks are all doing at the river, and I think all of us together are making such a huge impact, so it's very inspiring. But my name's Ana Costa. I'm an environmental education program coordinator with the environmental education team. I've got some teammates in the back who are really supportive, and then I also have some co-authors who couldn't be here, but I'm going to share a little bit about their programs too at the river. I hope to do it some justice, but those are some names that you might see out in the community as well, and they've got some amazing programs going on. So I named this presentation Reflecting on Water. That's the name of a workshop we recently did with adults at the river, a science and poetry workshop. But really, this presentation is about the work we do, which is about education, of course, as environmental educators, but it's a lot more about connection, which I think is this overall theme that we've been touching on today. I wanted to open with a poem. This was written by a 6th grader this year through our Living River of Words program. And so in Living River of Words, we bring students to the river and they do some nature journaling. One of those nature journaling exercises is called I Notice, I Wonder, It Reminds Me Of. And so I think, and I'll let you guys read through this, but it's very clear that this student was inspired by that it reminds me of piece. I know you can read, but I always feel that poetry is meant to be read aloud, so I'm going to read it. I think it's really impactful. Again, this is a 6th grader, so probably 11, maybe 12 years old when she wrote this. The Santa Cruz River reminds me of a river in Mexico. They look alike with a bunch of willow and mesquite trees around the river. A difference is there's much more land to be able to walk around than just a small area. I felt connected and reunited with my Mexican side. Instead of feeling far away, I felt like I was right there relaxing too. The cooling air and the sun touched my face, making it warm and breezy. I read that, and I don't get to judge these poems. Eventually, these poems and art pieces get selected in an art contest, but this was clearly one of the winners that the judges chose, just that connection, and I think it speaks to all the work we do at the river, both in the environmental education team at Pima County, but everyone, because it's about that human connection. I also loved it because it touches on that binationality of the river that's so important. So what I hope to cover today is just a little Pima County EE refresher. Not a lot of folks know what we do, and that's actually surprising. I mean, we are all plugged into the environmental space, but I always get like, oh, I didn't know Pima County did that. So just kind of what our team looks like. We've had some big changes in the last year that have informed our programming. We're going to look big picture at all the programming we've done along the Santa Cruz River in 2024, and then share a couple program highlights. And then finally look toward the future, some lessons learned on that theme of like building on successes. So 2024, I think for all of us was a big year of change. Our biggest change came before kind of that big change toward the end of the year, and that's we got moved to a new department. So I'm gonna throw an org chart at you, but there's meaning behind it. I apologize ahead of time. Our team used to be part of NRPR, Parks and Rec Natural Resources. This is kind of the breakdown of both that department and then what we called OSC. And what happened is they kind of shuffled, and we called it a divorce, remarriage. There's all these terms we can use, but those three pieces, natural resources where we were, cultural conservation, and ecological conservation from OSC, merged together to form a new department called Conservation Lands and Resources. And it makes sense because now everyone who's in this conservation space in the county is all together, and we can kind of lift up each other's work and learn from each other. So those are kind of the four pieces of our department, which informs our work a lot as EE because we kind of see ourselves as the outreach arm of CLR. And so what that means is we have this much stronger connection now to the multi-species conservation plan, to the cultural heritage work that's going on, and I hope that a couple of our program highlights later on kind of demonstrate what that looks like now. We also have a lot of new team members. If I gave this presentation a year ago today, half the team would have been different. We're a small team of 8, so when a big change like that comes through, it's kind of exciting. Everyone comes in with their new passions, new strengths, new ideas for programming, and I think combined with this new departmental change, it was a new time to like embrace new programming, tell a bigger story, try new challenges and new goals. So one of our biggest goals that we'll kind of touch upon a couple times is improving how we reach the community, right? Going beyond those typical birders that come on a walk. How do we reach these new communities and get our programs out into the community? A lot of that's gonna look like partnerships. So that's kind of where we're at. So programming-wise, we've been at the river for almost 25 years. Our team was born out of the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan, which came together in 2001. And those stars are where we mainly touch upon at the river. So you've seen this map like 10 times today. It's a really good map. We do work up at El Rio Preserve, at the stretch at Cortero is where primarily I do my programming. We do programming around the heritage stretch, and it kind of varies. One that I'll highlight today is at the Paseo de las Iglesias, and then down at Canoa Ranch. So we don't typically think of Canoa Ranch as, it hasn't been mentioned yet today, but the Santa Cruz River, a dry portion of it goes through, and then we do a lot of like birding and other things at the lake that's at Canoa Ranch, and we're always in our programming kind of juxtaposing that with the river and what it used to look like and things like that. And so if we're looking at specific programming and numbers, the bulk of that, kind of our bread and butter, are these wildlife viewing programs and our walks. So birding is by far the most popular of programs. We do regular birding, Birding 101, birding for everybody, which takes into account maybe mobility differences. We do lizard walks, dragonfly and damselfly walks. And then our newest program that we introduced this year are bat walks. And those have been a huge hit. Folks get to walk around with iPads that has an app on it, and there's an acoustic monitoring attachment there that can pick up sounds that we cannot. And so as those bats are echolocating and talking to each other on the iPad, it's pinging like this bat, this bat, this bat, and we get thousands of detections a night, and the public's been really into it. And then all of that data goes into like a housing center that we're hoping that we can connect with Bat Conservation International. And then we offer a lot of different types of walks. So whatever folks are looking for, there's a walk for it. But I think the main theme is that we're connecting folks like ecologically with the space, but also like on the mindfulness walk, really tapping into that healing nature or that healing component that nature can have, which I think the more points you can offer for folks to connect with the river, the better. Some are gonna get really interested about dragonflies. Others just really wanna like sit and listen to the breeze. And so there's a lot of ways that we can do that. But in 2024, so I had to pick some sort of time-bound frame where we could look at our impact. We offered 85 public programs along the river in those 4 locations, and 657 participants. I did the math because I was curious. That's about 7.7 people per program, which is nice. I think some programs are more popular than others. But you know, if you're looking out for lizards, you don't want like 20 people stomping through. So small numbers are sometimes good, But one of our challenges, I think, is going beyond those typical participants that we tend to get. And so we're trying a few things, whether that's offering more weekend programming, night programming, but I think it also just comes down to outreach and how we're getting the word out. I have some program highlights and numbers. These come from Jeff Babson. If you guys know Jeff Babson, he's our wildlife expert. So these are mostly, he does a lot of the work up at El Rio and then in the Marana stretch. But we have 57 species of dragonfly and damselflies. So I don't need to read them for you, but I always want to include some cool pictures. All of this data he was able to pull for me like that because we upload it all to community science apps like iNaturalist. And so folks that are on these programs are not only getting to enjoy it, but they can feel like, and they are, contributing to community science efforts. At El Rio alone in the year, they identified 257 different bird species, which is insane to me. And the bats, again, some really cool bats. These are like the vast majority of the detections, these common ones, but then also some less common ones, which I had fun Googling them and finding their cute little faces. They're great. So Living River of Words is the program that I coordinate. Again, we bring students out to the river where they are connecting scientifically, but also kind of artistically with the river. We had some huge growth this year with 19 residencies. That means like how many schools we worked with. And so that was 18 field trips in the school year to the river, and that's over 600 students that we took to the river this year. But that was all possible because of kind of some partnerships. And so I first want to highlight our partnership with the BIORETS program, which Jacqueline, you'll hear from her in about 5 minutes. That's her intern, Evelyn, in the picture on the right, leading some nature journaling exercises. They were on 16 of the 18 field trips with us to the river this year, so just couldn't have done it without them. And then another really meaningful partnership that I wanted to highlight this year was with the Arizona School for Deaf and Blind. It was a pretty life-changing experience taking these kids to the river and just seeing the differences in how they were able to access and benefit from that space. It really informed a lot of what we do across the board. Everyone can benefit from that type of inclusivity. And so, of course, I have to share some art. These were for some 5th grade students, and then this is from one of our deaf students. You can see she incorporated some of the ASL signs to represent her art pieces, and this is from a junior who has like pretty severe vision impairments, but I was really blown away by what they created. So to close, I have 2 other programs I want to highlight because I think it really shows that change that I was talking about, this new direction we're taking. One is one that we've offered twice now in 2025, and that's called Los Morteros, a Cultural Crossroads. So it's a walk along the Los Morteros area that highlights those 3 cultures that have had a presence along the Santa Cruz River, and that's, of course, the American, Spanish, and Native American, really looking at this overarching theme of how does culture impact the environment, but also how does the environment impact our culture? What lessons can we learn? And from what I've heard from our team member, Jared, who leads this hike, there's been really positive feedback and kind of a hunger for more of those conversations, which is really nice to hear. And then finally, a bilingual program that we've been offering at several different sites, but also at Paseo de las Iglesias along the river, are these kind of more family-friendly nature exploration, nature play. Melissa Munt is our like nature play expert. She can get all these loose parts and get kids creating amazing things. And I think it's really impactful for kids to do that alongside their parents so they could like see what that looks like and recreate that on their own. But these are at communities that, as we saw in the last video, have been in, like from and of the river for generations. So it's not about saying like, here's this thing, like they know it's there, but kind of doing that reconnection and seeing how we can learn from them and keep those kind of generational connections to the river going. So I know I'm short on time, so I think these lessons learned were really like speckled in throughout, but really it comes down to, as we've seen in all these presentations, nature is insanely resilient. And if we let it, if we fix our wrongs, it will in part come back in full force. And every time I'm at the river, I'm reminded of that. But mostly that our work is about human connection, right? And I think we talked about this in the panel. It's like if you bring people here and let them form their own connection, then they will lead to action, to stewardship. And I would say, to summarize kind of where we're headed and our new goals and new challenges, is really kind of laying the foundation about partnerships. We can't reach everybody, that's not our job, but there are folks who have these communities and they've done the community building work, and how can we partner and both get more out of that? And so I'll close because I think we're ready for time. We're good. If you guys have any questions, I put our website there because I got to plug explore.pima.gov if you are ready for more EE, want to check out our programs.
Has anybody here been on a bat walk yet? Show of hands. Show of hands, who will go on a bat walk this summer? Yeah.
Thank you and your program entirely. Question that occurred to me that really is kind of a thread from some of the other presentations that we've heard. I know that you're Pima County, but are you aware of and are you collaborating with, for example, Santa Cruz County, state of Sonora, Tijuana and San Diego got mentioned? Are there programs that that exist in other communities that might help with things like trash and some of the other things that are clearly not only being appreciated, but you're expanding the network of people who do appreciate it? So, quick question.
I think that's a great question. I know we are, as a team, kind of locationally bound to do work within Pima County. However, there are groups from outside of Pima County who come to some of our sites that we do programs with, but also, our division manager is doing a ton of work with the Wildlife Refuge. So there's ways where we're plugging in with some of these larger efforts that do are representative of those other jurisdictions.
I was wondering if you could tell us where we can see the art, the children and the poetry.
Thank you for that great leading question, Jacqueline. So right now, in about a week, we have our awards ceremony for this year's contest. I skipped over the bullet point, but there was 922 entries into the contest this year, which was astounding. About 65 of those were selected to become part of this exhibit. So starting next week, it'll be in the Wheeler Taft Abbott Senior Library at Crossroads Park in Marana. And then throughout the year, it's going to travel through the different libraries. So if you go to pima.gov or Google Living River of Words, there's a link where you can download the exhibit schedule and see where it's at a library near you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say the Living River of Words, art, and poetry is just amazing. You need to see it if you haven't already. Every year, it's wonderful. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experience with the Deaf and Blind School and how that may have changed your programs? You mentioned inclusivity.
Yeah, so I think the biggest takeaway I had with the Arizona School for Deaf and Blind, we didn't separate the groups by visually impaired and hearing impaired. We did it by middle school and high school. So we were working with both groups, sometimes on the same field trip, and the biggest takeaway for me was, especially during those nature journaling components, how those kids were tapping into, because we ask for stillness, we ask for silence so that they can really take in the space. But for those different groups, it looked totally different, and even among students within the same group. And so I think it kind of opened our eyes to how can we organize that exercise so that we're being more inclusive of all students in all groups. Like, maybe it's more tactile things, or maybe it's not silence, it's a lot of sharing, right? Like a lot of the hearing impaired students they were signing constantly about what they were seeing rather than kind of sitting in that stillness.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job. So two notes as we're setting up the next presentation. One, we've had 30 people listening in on Zoom throughout the day and participating, which is incredible. I got at a max in the room today, 50 people. So this is a very wide-ranging, beyond this immediate space type of conference. So thank you to everybody who's been here in the room. Thank you everybody who's tuning in on Zoom, and we hope you can come back tomorrow. 1, 2. At the conclusion today, we are going to be heading up to Brother John's. We have a private room up there for a networking event. So anybody can come. You are totally welcome. You can buy or drink whatever you want to do, but we've got that space reserved for the networking that's been happening all day. You've been very good about coming back to your seats when we're picking things back up. This is your chance to cut loose. So we're going to be heading up to Brother John's, which is directly up Stone. You could walk there. It's about a half a mile away, but lots of parking. They're expecting us, and we have the room available to us from 4:30 to 5:30. So really hope that you can come there. And I'll make that announcement when we're closing again. So our final in-person presentation of the day is Jacqueline Bruhn. Jacqueline is with the University of Arizona and will be presenting on BIORETS, which we've heard a little bit about today, a K-12 teacher training program to enhance science education, student research, and community engagement along the Santa Cruz River. Jacqueline.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Luke, and thank you to all the presenters, and thank you, Sonoran Institute, for having us here. I am happy that I got to go after Anna, because she sort of set the stage a little bit for BIORETS. So in the program, you'll see Margaret Wilch's name. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here today, and Michael is joining us on Zoom and will be joining us live tomorrow. But I'm going to talk a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Wrong one. So Michael's not here, but just a shout out to Michael for really being the glue that holds so much of what we do together, both in the amazing pictures that you see if you follow him on social media, as well as throughout all of the pictures you'll see today. He is right there with our students, whether it is our middle and high school students or our undergrads or our grad students, and constantly behind the scenes. So thank you, Michael. So what is BIORETS? It's a really odd acronym. So what it is research experiences for teachers' sites in the biological sciences. It is a National Science Foundation funded program. What we're gonna be looking at today is about 3 years. It started in 2022. So what this means is teachers working alongside professors, grad students, undergrads, to conduct research. The word sites means that it's a cohort. It's a group of teachers as opposed to a single teacher doing research with a single professor. And you'll see our website listed on a couple different slides. Pretty much anything that I'm going to talk about, you'll be able to find on our website. So these are our very broad, the very broad goals of the program, which is this ecological research. We focus on grades 6 through 12, although we have had teachers, 5th grade teachers, and we've had teachers who were in the program that started as 6th grade teachers and now are teaching younger grades. We work to expand their knowledge of water, all things water, the water systems, the water cycle, what Tucson water, not the company Tucson Water, but the water in Tucson, and sustainability. We work on building these 2 networks. So a network with all of our partners, like Anna. They're a very close partner of ours. Many of our teachers, a good portion of our teachers go on the Living River of Words field trips for years, even after they've done the program. And then the second network is that sites, right? That group, that cohort of teachers. And we bring them back together through the school year in the program and over the years that after they've finished the program. And then this last piece is really sort of the visionary piece that I feel like Michael brings in, of thinking about creating a generation of students who have this personal connection. Maybe they've been to the river, maybe the personal connection is through their teacher who's been in the program, but this personal connection and what that's gonna look like down the road. So what does that look like in terms of numbers? So you saw some numbers from Anna. And when I was showing Michael the slides, we talked about, he's like, oh, we usually leave the impacts to the end. And I felt like it's so amazing how much we've done in the last 3 years. And really most of the field trips have been the last 2 years. So that 5,000, almost 6,000 number, that's all of the kids of teachers who've been through the program. So some of the reasons that number is so high is we have really big classrooms in Arizona. So a teacher will have 150 kids, but that's an amazing amount of outreach. And then 1,800 is kids who've actually been to the river, either with us or with Living River of Words. And then 32 teachers who've participated in the program, finished the program, and that's 9 school districts. So we're gonna look at not necessarily a river map, but where are we? So our reach is really quite broad. The zoom out map, we've had teachers from the nation. You'll be seeing the video after this from a high school teacher from Quigley, down as far south as Sarita, and then up into Marana. And you'll see in the Tucson Zoom, the purple dots are the coming year. So we have selected teachers for 2025 to participate in the program. And even with it being our 4th year, our reach is still growing. The list of schools is on our website. It's about 23 schools because we do have multiple teachers at some schools. So this is what I'm going to walk you through, what we do over the summer, which is really bringing the teachers to the river, this focus on research, data collection, field data, network building, and then the school year where we bring the river to the students. So that does include field trips and classroom integrations. So the 3 sort of areas that we do in the summer, the bulk of our time is really in the field research at the river. The second area we focus on are curriculum skills development for our teachers, and this is to really help them bring the river back to their classroom. And then finally, building these community connections. So this is a really key part, and I know this has come up, and it's probably going to come up again tomorrow, but building out this community of resources for our teachers, whether it's field trips with Living River of Words, or Tucson Bird Alliance doing field work, Tucson water programming. So all kinds of amazing connections for our teachers to expand. This is how the program starts. This is the first thing we do with teachers. If you ever get the chance to have Michael draw water in Tucson and where it's going and what's happening and some of the history, I highly recommend it. So he takes teachers through this and really sort of grounds the program. We also have Jacelle, who's been able to join us twice, and also has joined us on Zoom as well, to give us an Indigenous perspective grounding, which is really important when you're talking about the Santa Cruz River. We would be remiss if we didn't take our teachers to Tres Rios. I don't know how many people have been on this. It's an amazing tour, incredibly in-depth. Our teachers absolutely love it. And Pima County has a really great video about Tres Rios that then the teachers are able to bring back into their classrooms. So we're bringing the teachers to the river. So we're all collecting data all across the river, not so much collecting down at San Javier, but we are down. We do take them down that far south and up to Tangerine Road. So this is really the heart of the program. The sort of essential piece is these research groups, and how Michael designed the program, because it would be overwhelming, right? We have our teachers, they mostly have never done anything like this. So what he did was divide it up into these research areas. So at the beginning of the program is 6 weeks, which I think I forgot to mention. So it's about 6 weeks in the summer. And at the beginning of the 6 weeks, our teachers, all of our teachers learn all of these different, focus on all these different areas. So there's a picture of Rocio, who presented last year here, and she is teaching how to identify dragonflies, how to capture them, net them, hold them, to the whole group of teachers. And then that's also what's happening with the turtle down there. Teachers are learning how to hold the turtles, measure, weigh. So that happens, all the teachers, all the focal areas. And then for about 2 weeks, they go out with their grad mentor. And in a small group, which you can see Kat Sakuman doing plant transects. Kat also spoke last year. And they collect data from 5 different locations along the river in these main areas. So we've seen some amazing wildlife cameras. We don't get quite that much, but this really allows the teachers to dig into the science. And for many of them, they report that doing this program has reminded them why they became science teachers, and really both builds their confidence and energizes them around the field. So concurrent to that, we are in the classroom at the university, and we are really focusing on this idea of place-based learning. So that's what's happening in the field. That's sort of an intense version of it, right? Field work. But we're trying to really get that into the classroom. So we're working on thinking about the scientific process, asking questions, building hypotheses. We're doing a lot of work around data literacy. These are all sorts of data literacy resources we work with. Nature journaling is something that Anna talked a little bit about, and you'll see a few more examples. We use this book as one of our textbooks. And then the other side is a lot of the community science resources that we touch upon that are really great resources for teachers. And then finally, the alumni mentors. So I mentioned that cohort. So one of the really great things about the program is our teachers come back in the summer and work with our new teachers. So that's what's happening. So these are just a couple examples of what our teachers do, right? So when they're not at the river, we spend a lot of time on campus at U of A, and we do activities that they would be able to do with their students. So sound mapping is one of them, and what we're trying to work with them on this idea that they're collecting data in the field, right, with their grad students, with their mentors, but there's other ways to collect data. So this sound mapping exercise is something that we do, and we also do it when we go to the river with students. And then the place-based infographics, that's another activity. Our teachers do like a biodiversity inventory during the summer, and then they choose an animal to do an infographic. And you're gonna see some kid examples of that in just a little bit. So now we're towards the end of the program. We have, teachers have collected all their data. We're back in the classroom. Forrest, he is looking at turtle data. Soki is looking at dragonfly data. And they're analyzing their data, trying to decide how to visualize it and present it. So this is just a really great exercise for them to work through this. It's hard, it's complicated, it can be frustrating. But again, to put them in that student role, that they can then go back and do the same thing with in their classrooms. our final, we wrap up the 6-week summer with a visit to Wahkigton, the restoration site in San Javier, and we are incredibly fortunate and grateful that we get to go here. It is incredibly inspirational and really helps close out the program with this idea of what a community can achieve coming together, as well as reinforcing an Indigenous perspective in terms of a relationship with water. So then we move to the school year, and our goal is to get the river to the students. So we do lots of field trips, but not every school and teacher can do a field trip. So just putting that's why our numbers, we have so many more students who have connections to the river just through their teachers than coming on a field trip. So we do field trips. Many of our teachers go with Living River of Words. We also do field trips as well. And our teachers continue to get to the river. So we try to make sure we have at least quarterly field trips for them. And you can see in this slide, so the teachers and the students are doing a very similar thing here, looking at macroinvertebrates. What the teachers are doing is looking also at tolerance values. So slightly different, but similar activities. So we also do, thank you, Luke, we do human impacts. We collect trash at Heritage and quantify it. And students have done some incredible work cleaning parts of that section of the river up, some pictures of nature journaling. And then this, we talked a little bit about the students. So we have 2 teachers currently at Arizona School for Deaf and Blind who have done the BIORETS program. And we brought, one of the teachers was in the turtle group, during her summer, and she wanted to create a mini research experience for her students. She teaches middle school deaf and hearing impaired students. And so we did a 4-day turtle research experience where they decided what parameters they were going to look at. They measured the parameters, decided where to put turtle traps, and then checked the traps over a 4-day period. So it was an incredible field trip, extended field trip. So I wish I could talk more about it, but I can't. So what does the school year look like in the classroom? So this is a teacher who, again, can't do a field trip, so they are building riparian habitat tanks with plants from the river. The roseate skimmer you'll see and the dragonflies are cool are one of my favorite infographics ever that students have done. And interestingly, the teacher that her students that did that was the same teacher that the poem that Anna read was, it's Miss Carpenter. And then you'll see a graphic of some trash, Luke. I put that one in for you. And then the final one in the corner it's a little hard to see, but it is a visualization of plant data. It's dry and wet plant data from Heritage. We have a website where we have lots and lots of lessons and activities that our teachers have put together. There's a huge range of them. You can check them out. And then expanding even further, we had 7 teachers go to the National Science Teachers Association Conference with Michael in Philadelphia at the end of March. Lots of presentations. You'll see watershed models being built on the side, and you'll see a couple more of Miss Carpenter's students' infographics, and all their posters and materials are also on our website. So back to these numbers, we are, as I said, super proud of these numbers, of the reach of this program. We couldn't do it without all of our partners. What's next? We were awarded 3 more years to continue BIORETS, but the state of the National Science Foundation is precarious at best. So awarded does not mean that the money has been given to you. So we don't know, like so many other people don't know what's going to happen. The Santa Cruz Conservation Fund has also funded quite a bit of this work of philanthropic donors that made it all possible. And my final acknowledgement slide, the music would be playing if this was the Oscars, but we would be remiss to not thank all of these amazing people and groups that help us reach more and more students in Tucson. So thank you so much.
So I'm going to suggest one question, and then if you can stick around when we're done, post video, of course. Does anybody have a quick question? Otherwise, we can jump into the video.
Okay, so we're going to watch, so this summer, our teachers all produced a video, what I did this summer. And it's short. The goal was 5 minutes. I think this one might be a little bit longer. This is Omar. He teaches at Baba Kiveri High School. He also created, if you look on our website, there's an amazing petroglyphs, snippets of data lesson. And I know you're going to enjoy it because it's a really good one.
When entering the space of the Santa Cruz River, which runs through Tucson, I had difficulty navigating it. The desert had always been my home. I could easily navigate the desert landscape due to learning the stories and songs of the place. With the Santa Cruz River, I was a guest in this space who knew no stories about the plants and animals. However, through the BIORETS program, I was fortunate enough to learn how to navigate the space. The Santa Cruz River served as a guide for me and taught me many lessons this summer. Everything connected runs to the Santa Cruz River. Since time immemorial, many indigenous tribes, such as the O'odham, had a relationship with the water, a mutual relationship. The river provided water for farming and irrigation. In return, the O'odham sang songs and danced to give gratitude and respect. This mutual relationship became more complex when more people from the outside, who did not sing and dance, moved into the O'odham homelands. As such, the water demand grew too much for the Santa Cruz River to handle. In the 1930s, the river ran dry due to excessive groundwater pumping. This was never the intent of the Santa Cruz River. The people in San Javier community knew the language of the river. Dr. Jacelle Ramon-Sauberan shared the resilient story of the people in San Javier community coming together and successfully suing the state of Arizona. After many years, pipes were laid down to bring water from the Colorado River to southern Arizona. The new people who moved into Tucson slowly learned the language of the river. The Tucson Water Company and the Pima County have throughout the years made many efforts to raise community awareness for water conservation. Today, Tres Rio Wastewater Reclamation Facility is one of the wastewater facilities in Pima County that provides highly treated wastewater to the Santa Cruz River. As a result, some parts of the Santa Cruz River have perennial or continuous flow, and the groundwater level has been steadily increasing to the floor recharge. The Santa Cruz River serves as a common thread that connects people from different backgrounds. Over time, they learned the shared language of the river, fostering a sense of unity and shared experience among them. Getting up at the first light of dawn was the start of my day when collecting data with my plant group. During this time, we surveyed different areas throughout the Santa Cruz River to examine the richness and diversity of the wetland plants. Some of the plants that showed up in the survey included cattails, tall flat sedge, sleep willow, and smartweed. Despite the summer heat, collecting data with my group was relaxing due to the comfort we had with each other and with the space. This process reminded me of the saguaro fruit harvest because when collecting data, we each had a role to fulfill: recording data, laying the transect, and surveying the quadrat. During the harvest, each person had a role to fulfill: holding the bucket for the fruit, getting the fruit with the cork bud, and cleaning the fruit. Both events take place in the extreme summer heat, but what made them bearable was the exchange of stories with one another. I was fortunate enough to hear the stories from our plant group, Anna, Bianca, Elizabeth, and Kat. Sometimes science loses this community aspect in research, when in reality is what makes these experiences more impactful. This quote was shared when sharing how animals such as 41 species of dragonflies and desmoflies returned to their habitats after 5 months when Tucson brought flowing treated water to the heritage site, almost as if they were returning home. At the end of the sorrel fruit harvest, Sissy ended the day by singing a song. She expressed that when harvesting the sorrel fruit of the Bayou Dutch, they were singing a song as they navigated through the sorrel to remind themselves to walk far as they could and harvest as they walked back. The harvest camp was a place that grounded them because no matter how far they walked, they will always return to the camp. In some way, the Santa Cruz River is like the camp. It's a place for many species, including the humans, that grounds them. No matter how far you will go in life, the Santa Cruz River will always be here to welcome you.
Of Santa Cruz River Research Days. Our thanks to all of you for being here, to our presenters, to our lead sponsor, the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona, our many supporting sponsors and friends of Research Days. Particular thanks again to Coffee Times for the donation of coffee, and to the Santa Cruz River Research Days Steering Committee, who I very regretfully failed to mention earlier today, which includes Ben Lomeli, who's over here, Michael Bogan, Tony Palmer from Tumacacori National Historical Park. Right, everybody? Yeah. A few reminders. Feedback is very much appreciated. If you're coming tomorrow as well, you can do it today and tomorrow, or you can save it for tomorrow. But if today is your day, your feedback really does make a difference. This is why we do this bilingually. This is why we choose the locations that we do. So please know that your feedback is truly valuable. We're going to be heading to Brother John's now for a networking event, just to spend some time together. It's a beautiful place, great food, great drinks, alcoholic and non. So it'll be great to see as many people there as we can get. Again, we have our own space up there, so it'll be nice to be there together. Tomorrow, we are going to be reconvening here at 9 a.m. So the first presentation tomorrow will be at 9:30.
Recording stopped.
Great. We're going to have coffee and tea, again, from Coffee Times. We're going to have a ton of pastries from Holden's Rise Above. It's like a great vegan pastry place around here. You'd never know, but if you're vegan, right on. Lunch tomorrow will be provided by Taqueria Juanitos, or The Purple Place up on Grant Road, the best. And we have a really full, beautiful schedule tomorrow that will start, like I said, 9:30. Please get here as early as 9, and we'll be concluding right around 5 o'clock. So it's a chock-a-block day tomorrow. Anything I'm missing, Claire? Well, tremendous thanks again to you all, to Christian for running the AV setup, Claire running the Zoom, Bianca, Alex, Harshit in the back, and for all of you for being here. I'm going to run up real quick to Brother John's to make sure that you all have a warm welcome when you get there, but we'll slowly be breaking the room down, and again, see you tomorrow. Oh, and to our translators, to our language interpretation translators, that's a lot of talking. I'm already losing my voice just from doing these little things. They are talking all day. Tomorrow's going to be a big day for them as well. So it's a worthwhile investment, and they're really very wonderful people. So to you all, thank you. See you tomorrow.